Glitch Paradox is unfiltered. Parental discretion is strongly advised.
Flying saucers.
Glitch Paradox. Glitch Paradox.
Our minds should be open on all subjects.
This is Glitch Paradox.
Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Glitch Paradox podcast. Oh god, I'm hitting every button. It's fantastic. So, thank you technology. We don't need the virus. We just have ourselves to deal with. But anyway.
Good old technology.
But yeah, this is a podcast that both Big Rich and I started like many years ago. And this will be kind of like the maiden voyage on YouTube, because we did it on SoundCloud for years. And kept uploading, and a lot of the episodes are down right now because, you know, you have to pay for the storage of basically to hold your vault of stuff. So we've been slowly getting stuff prepared to move over to YouTube. Now some of it I'm worried will be censored because, yay YouTube. So, because, you know, feelings and hashtag watch your language, you know, I don't know. They're just assholes. But anyway, but yeah, so everyone, this is Big Rich, who is my co-host. We co-host the podcast together, just as we have with the Forge Circle. And how are you doing, Rich?
I'm good. Getting my mind right to get back on the grind tomorrow night. Today's been kind of a chill day. Like we were saying earlier, my oldest daughter turned 15 over the weekend, and you know, her and Ariana both started school this week. Ariana had her softball camp on Saturday, so it was like I got off of work at 7 and immediately had to take her all the way out to North Phoenix off of Pinnacle Peak.
Oh God!
And the 101.
For those who don't know, that's a bit far.
Yeah, so I've already been up since the day before, worked all night, got off, went all the way out to North Phoenix, and then her camp didn't end until 12.
Right.
So my eyes are on fire. Nina went with me and you know, to make sure I was going to be okay to drive, but Ariana pulled both her muscles in her like her inner thigh, both legs. She pulled a muscle at the beginning of softball camp.
Good God.
So she was in a lot of pain, but I give her respect because she did the whole camp and didn't quit. She was in pain. She couldn't walk. She was like in a lot, but she did every drill without quitting. So that was a lot of mental toughness. And I told her after it was done how proud I was of her for hanging in there. And even if she quit it, I wouldn't have tripped. I'd be like, I understand you're in pain, whatever. I get it. But the fact that she stayed through and played or did all the drills and everything,
right,
and finished the camp. After that, she was like, Dad, I want to take a break from softball. I was like, hey, okay, cool. Because I told her, I said, look, we keep going. You do this camp and let me know how you feel after it's all said and done. And she was knocked out the rest of Saturday, but we talked about it Sunday, and I asked her, I said, hey, so how do you feel? She said, I just want to focus on school right now, and we can go back, you know, when spring next year starts up, you know, go out for it then. I said, okay, no problem. And just let it be, you know.
Right.
But the fact that she was playing this sport she had no interest in, actually excelled at it, but right now just focused on freshman year, her first year of high school, and want to focus on that. So I, let her do her thing.
Well, good for
So
her.
yeah.
I mean, it's
Mhm.
it's good that she hung in there. I think that shows kind of the
Yeah.
resilience because
Mhm.
sports in general, like it can be pretty tough, especially after spending a whole damn summer sitting in a house.
Yeah.
Getting out and when you can, but I mean, it's just a whole nother world right now.
Yeah, I take them. I take them to the park, and I posted up videos
Hmm.
of her doing some workout, softball stuff. But it's different when they're stuck in the house, like you said, and I want to keep them active and everything, and so just got to find different things for them to do that they
Right.
can do right now, while being careful as well.
Yeah, because I mean, in the end, you're trying to find that healthy medium, of like, okay,
Mhm.
they're getting out enough, or they're able to, be involved in something that's physical activity,
Mhm.
especially. Like that was our issue here was that the parks were closed for quite a while, and it was like, well, what do we do? So I was finding them a lot of stuff that they could do outside a little bit. Then it got really, really
Mhm.
damn hot because that's both
Mhm.
my state and your state. We live in very hot parts of the state, and summer is
Mhm.
like when I was a kid, we were always outside. But like
Yeah, all the time.
I didn't live in a state where like you could like cook bacon on the sidewalk during the summer and successfully do it, you know. And I didn't live in that kind of heat. We had humidity. I was in
Mhm.
Florida when I grew up. I was born and raised in Florida. But it's just, yeah, this,
It's been it's been a very dry monsoon out here.
you guys haven't
Very
had
dry.
much rain at all there, huh?
It rained at one time out here, and I was like, okay, started monsoon, okay, cool, and that was it. We just broke a previous record we had of days where it was 110 plus
Right.
degrees.
Hmm.
The previous record is 33. We're on like 35 or 36 days now
God, man.
of 110 plus. It's been 118 a few times, 116, 115. It just goes fluctuates back and forth. But yeah, it's like going 35 to 36 days now of 110 plus degree weather straight.
Right. And
So I'm hoping that we at least have a very wet winter. I'm cool with that.
that's a very high possibility. I mean, here we had a very quiet and dry summer at the beginning, and then we had the hurricane, and
Hmm.
that we're down in South Texas, so we got hit with the hurricane Hannah,
Hmm.
I guess, and it did quite a bit of damage as far as flooding went, wind damage, stuff like that. But it brought in these mosquitoes that look like alligators and shit, and
Oh wow.
dude, these mosquitoes were so big. I was like, who the hell? So they've been spraying successfully. They're mostly dead now. So that's good.
Hmm.
I mean, and that's a relief. I wish they would spray more often, but whatever. Um, but we had that, and we had some rain thereafter, actually off and on for a couple weeks. But we're gonna have some hot
Hmm.
weather as we get into August, and hopefully September it'll chill a little bit, and our highs will only be in like the low 90s. That's what my prayer is it'll be
Hmm.
in the low 90s and I won't have like this extreme, temperature going and all this shit because it's been like
Yeah.
absolute trash. Absolute trash. I know there it's been hot as hell too, but
Hmm.
I don't know. So how I guess the big question of the day for a lot of people, everyone's kind of dealing with their own, where everyone's kind of scattered throughout the United States, so that could be small towns or cities, or to large cities. But I guess what kind of restrictions are you guys under for the COVID-19 crap?
um, the one that really affected me personally and other people that's you know about that gym life was the closure of the gyms.
Hmm.
Um, Closed gyms, bars, and clubs, nightclubs or whatever.
Right,
But like restaurants are still open. Of course, they have a certain limit as far as their capacity. The malls are still open.
right,
Um, Pretty much everything. I know the library is. You have to like the public library. You would have to go on the website pre hold your books and then go and pick them up. So you can't like just go to the library and check out books. You have to do it online, then go to the library and get them.
Curbside type thing.
Yeah, basically. So for the most part, the stores are open. Of course, it's mandated. Everybody wears a mask or whatever, just like it is just about everywhere else, a lot of other places. But, it's sometimes you feel like you want to do more, and it's just like, oh, I can't,
Right.
because so many things got canceled. But, we've adjusted. We got 5-6 video game systems here. We got internet, got cable and stuff, but I still try my best to do what I can and get out the house or whatever, even if it's like a quick trip to the grocery store or Target or something.
Right.
I was just in GameStop earlier today, so, I was in GameStop. I still try to do what I can, but I'm not out and about like that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Yeah. No, I don't go out and just be gone all day. No, it's like I pick, okay, I'm going here, grabbing this, leaving. So
Right.
It's like boom, 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 gone.
Yeah, like it's pretty much like here. It's the same way. It's a little more. I would say because of the stuff that's going on, they really want us to focus on, restricting how often we're out. We still have we actually have a shelter in place here, so that means
okay.
you can't do any non-essential travel. So like whatever the hell, you could put that under everything is essential to some extent.
Yeah.
Depending on who you talk to, you have a Karen who's like, I have to have my nails done. It's essential. Shut the fuck up. But
you know what?
Oh man,
I got to get my hair cut and all that and all. I can, but I just haven't.
right.
I've been. Next weekend I probably might, but my barber could come to me,
Right.
or I could just meet up. It's by appointment, so
And that's kind of the thing. It's like here they have us on shelter in place, so non-essential travel you're not allowed to go no more than, let's say, if it's just for like the grocery store or something, or to pick up food, 2 people per vehicle. And then if it's for a doctor appointment or emergency care, then it's up to 4. So basically that limits who can leave, the home at one time. And we have a curfew, but we had a curfew up until recently, like this past week. Last Wednesday they rescinded the 11 o'clock curfew for adults. Because originally it was in place from like 11 o'clock at night until about 5 in the morning. And then they had another curfew set before that at 10 p.m. for anyone 18 and younger, or younger than 18, that they had to be in. And theirs was like from 10 to 6 or something. So now it's just the 10 to 6 for younger people, I guess. So, it's not terrible necessarily, but it's like, okay, well, that's a pain in the ass waiting to happen. So
yeah, we were like that. Several months back we had that whole stay at home order, and that was pretty crazy. But no, for the most part, you can pretty much go to where you need to go, except for those that's excluded, gyms, bars, and all that. But
right,
I
was
movie
reading
theater. But everywhere else, you can pretty much. You go to the mall if you want to, so everything else is pretty much open.
Yeah, they have the malls. I think the malls are open now, but they're limited. I wouldn't go in a mall. You couldn't pay me to go in a goddamn mall. Just based on to me, it's about cleanliness, and I had to a few months ago. They had limitations. Some places still have limitations about how many people can enter a store. Like GameStop here, it's limit of, I think, 7 people.
Yeah,
and,
7. Yep.
And it was like, okay, so we had to wait outside of a GameStop last week, just so we could go in really quick, and we were going to pick up something for one of the kids. And but it's still restricted like that in some ways at quite a few businesses. Everything is curbside here. So if you want food, it's curbside. If it's getting into a doctor is a whole nother topic. We have a lot of the I have to go to the eye doctor. That's an example. Like, I need to go to the eye doctor to get my updated prescription so I can get my contacts and all this other crap. And I can't make an appointment to save my life right now. So everything is pretty much, like, they are making decisions on a lot of these offices too if they're going to permanently close. That's how bad it is. And we've seen some shuttering of businesses here and things like that. Mom and pop mostly, but we have had some more of the bigger chains that announced earlier that they were going to be closing permanent stores. Like Tuesday morning, closed 2 of their 4 stores down here in the Rio Grande Valley, and Pier 1 obviously is going, they filed for bankruptcy of some type. So
they were expensive anyway.
Yeah, they're overpriced, and they had their run in the 80s. Like, it's done. And so it's kind of like an overly priced cost plus, But needless to say, though, like, these schools right now are, Squirrel started today also, but they're pretty much on virtual. So that's where they're at for now. So they're virtually learning, and they'll be doing that they're going to make some decisions in September if they're going to partially reopen the school or if they're going to remain virtual. They're probably going to do a partial reopening, I imagine, especially for parents who rely on, the schools for, like, daycare, or for, that sounds awful, but it's true. Economically, they depend on the schools. So that's where we're at right now. Basically, September is the month where everything's going to be reconsidered because, Texas is pushing to reopen all this shit. And then our area, among many others, have gotten hit pretty strong in their hospitals. Like San Antonio got hit pretty hard, too. Down here, it's like our death counts are extremely high. The number of positive cases are pretty high. And that, they look at our county versus the valley as a whole, which is like 2 or 3 counties put together. We have just short of 1 million people down here. So, like, I think it's like 500 to 700,000 people live down in the Rio Grande Valley. And our percentage of cases, is about 7% of our population, and the state is around, I'm trying to think where we're at. The state's at, like, I think the state's around, we're at 6% down here. The state is at 7%. And when it hits 9%, that's when the lockdowns supposedly will return. With the schools reopening and kids entering cluttered classrooms again, I wonder how many kids are going to end up with the flu and be mistaken for the COVID.
Yeah.
Oh,
it wouldn't surprise me at all, and that's really going to be the real, decider right there. And like that video you sent me earlier, that was pretty crazy. Those videos. And what that lady was saying made perfect sense, And if it happens, where all these kids go back and then all of a sudden cases are crazy. I was reading somewhere where it was like, I forgot how many kids they said was already affected. It was a lot already. And I'm just like, and like I said, I can't knock parents who have to have their kids go to school, whatever their situation is at home, where they don't have no one to watch them, they don't feel comfortable leaving their kids, or whatever the case may be, while they're working.
It says, I pulled up 3 days ago, there was an article, I'm pulling it up really quick, it's from CBS News. It says 97,000 children reportedly test positive for the coronavirus in 2 weeks as schools gear up for instruction. Okay. And, it says in this last 2 weeks of July, a new report from the American Academy of Pediatrics finds just over 97,000 children tested positive for the coronavirus from July 16th to the 30th, according to the association. Out of almost 5 million reported cases in the U.S., CBS News' Michael George reports that the group found more than 338,000 were children. Ouch.
Now, we know that most kids should recover from it, because they're immune, for the most part, majority of kids, their immune systems are a lot better. They're young, so they should be able to recover. That still doesn't count into effect the kids that have things passed down from generation, hereditary issues or health issues. So, that's really the main thing right there is those kids who, may have stuff passed down that's out of their control health wise.
Right.
But still, that's still a big number. That's
It
still
is.
pretty crazy.
And there was a case,
Yeah.
and I just saw it this is published on August 10th. It's from CNN, and I'm not going to show, I'll link it, but I'm not showing the article. They can kiss my ass. CNN gives the title of this the 7-year-old Georgia boy with COVID-19 who died drowned in a bathtub after he had a seizure, the coroner said. They found that he had the seizure due to a high fever. After being found unresponsive and pronounced dead at the hospital, the child tested positive for the virus post-mortem. That's interesting. So the preliminary report said the child died from drowning secondary to seizure due to a fever from COVID. The final report is still pending toxicology tests. Though the death was reported Thursday, Wessinger said the child died about 2 weeks before his death was reported by the health department. Seizures due to high fevers are very common in children who have the coronavirus. Well, yes. The boy, who is African American, is the youngest person with the disease to die in the state of Georgia. Wessinger said the state is still investigating reports that the child attended the same church, where 2 elderly members also tested positive and died from the virus. As of 9 p.m. on Monday, there are 219,025 cases in Georgia and 4,229 deaths. Georgia's heading down a path right now, and it's a slow-moving path, but they do share a border with Florida. I'm just going to point that out. And Florida is nothing more than just a fucked mess anyway.
Yeah, and you're hearing now about how this virus is affecting a lot of people of color, like the Hispanic population and the black population. How it's really the numbers and the cases are, compared to everyone else, it's crazy, And at first it didn't start out that way, and then from there it just, and a lot of things come into play. A lot of these communities, especially if they're in a hood or whatever, a lot of these are not. They don't have the hospitals or the care that you would normally get. So a lot of times you got to factor in that where they're from, how is that area, and all that. It plays a lot into how these people are getting treated as far as health wise. And just what is the underlining, and then with a lot of black people, you got to look at, what health issues are very big in the black population, also the Hispanic population, and those are big factors that play a part. Like me, for example, I'm strong as an ox, but as you remember, I almost died back in 2016. That was a scary time. I lost almost 100 pounds. I was weak. I couldn't, and it really humbled me as far as me being a person that was always looked on as, oh, Richard, you're a strong guy, or whatever the case is, and it really humbled me. And so now I got to deal with certain health issues for the rest of my life. I can do my best to, excuse me. Oh, wow. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm trying to hold off this burping. So I got to do whatever I can to prolong my issues from getting worse.
Right.
So, when it comes to, I'm really big into juicing and watching what I eat for the majority of the time. And, so with certain things I got to be careful with because of my kidneys.
Right.
And when I found out, the seriousness, I didn't realize, my kidneys were at that point.
Right.
Now, over time, they gotten better and better and better and better. But when I got sick, they weren't functioning almost at all.
Right.
So it was a big thing. And, for me, even though I don't what's the word? I don't fear the virus. Not that the virus is not real. I just don't fear it as long as I'm taking the precautions. I'm here at the house along with family and all that. You know, you can only do what you can do, and you know, in the end, either you're going to get it or not, or you may already had it and built up antibodies for it, or you may just be walking around like patient zero and don't know.
Right.
Yeah, for me, you know, I do the precautions just like if I was sick with the flu or anything else, you know, as far as making sure things are sanitary and making sure I'm washing my hands and all that stuff you would do when you get sick.
Yeah.
And, you know, from there, it's just kind of like, okay, I'm doing what I can. After that,
Yeah.
you know, it's an open game from there.
And I think, you know, for a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of different conspiracies that have been flying around, right? When I say a lot, there's a lot of conspiracies.
Yeah.
And
no, I got some friends that talk about it all the time, so I know.
Right. And it's like I have friends that have brought it to me, and like, you know, whether it was a bioweapon is the first thing that started. And I'm one of these people, I really hold off on jumping into those rabbit holes right away because I want to see where things are going to go, and that sounds terrible, but if I immediately assume, oh, well, it's this, then I don't feel like I'm properly educating myself as I go along. So that includes whether or not I agree with information. I'll put it on a shelf and say, okay, whatever, I'll see what this does. I'm going to see how this interacts with the population, and I want to see what it does medically. Like, what are doctors saying about it? What is the feedback they're giving? How is it affecting people both negatively and positively? And I noticed from day one, I would say back in February when this started, or January technically, it was brought to the attention, and I watched it all the way through January, and by the end of February, or excuse me, the end of January going into early February, I was already preparing. I was like, okay, after talking to people I knew abroad, and then talking to people here in the States, I was like, listen, you know, there's a bigger problem. You know, there's stuff going on. This isn't SARS, and the truth is that is it something that got unleashed? You know, there's a lot of doctors that are mixed on that. You know, not the talking heads on American television. We are not the ethnocentric supreme power of all things in the United States. But I listen to what they say, and because we've been so heavily misled in the American media from day one with this, and let me tell you where the whole bullshit in the beginning, I was pissed about the mask thing, right? That they said that we don't need masks and nobody needs to worry about it. It's not a big deal. It's not going to do anything. And and a lot of doctors from all over, not just here in the States, but like all over the world. But I would say there was a good portion here in the States. I was like, that's bullshit. You know, masks are very preventative, and yes, you're going to have to change your masks out. And no, handkerchiefs are not good enough. You know, the masks that are going to work the best are the following, like maybe 3 that I know of off the top that actually work. Not just, you know, they're at a 76 percentile, but I'm talking like 95 percentile, you know, or 97 percentile of being protected. And there's a lot of, and so the CDC pulled this bullshit about how, like, we didn't need masks. It's because they were stockpiling them. You know, and they used the excuse it was for essential workers and all this shit. They weren't getting those masks, so I don't know where the hell they went. The government was stockpiling the masks. And we went ahead and still did what we were going to do. I was like, fuck them. And then they were having, do you remember that window, Rich, where they were having people shame other people that were wearing masks because it was taking away from medical workers, the and the superheroes of our community. And it was this big shaming campaign. I don't give a shit. I got a couple looks. I'm like, say something. Please say something. No one says shit. I'm like, because you're dumb. You know, and it's like, I did what I did, what felt right. I did because I followed advice from reputable people I knew of what to do. Not just anybody. People who were on the inside track who basically told me they're full of shit. you need to kind of wear a mask. And yes, you need to rotate them, you need to sterilize them, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and, take care of your masks, right? And I said, okay. And that advice followed through, meaning everything kind of, and all of a sudden their tone changed. And then there was this group of anti-maskers. There's people out there you got both people like Karens on both sides. You got people bitching because other people are not wearing masks. I personally, here's how I feel about the anti-mask shit. You do what you want to do, right? If you don't want to wear a mask, awesome. You go right for it. But don't you fucking come up to me and say anything. Grab my mask, grab my children's mask. Stay in your business. And the thing about it is, if you want to take,
same way.
And it goes both ways. If I'm wearing a mask, it's because I'm not a dumb person. I read quite a bit. I've talked to a lot of people, not all this mainstream bullshit. People who actually I've always gone to for information and have always spoken to privately, and they've always been very forward and honest with me. And without them, I give them major credit because, between you and I and other people we've spoken to, just in our little groups, the information we've been given has come through and has remained consistent. And having that common sense, right? And just having the information to back it up, not just feelings and somebody shaming you one way or the other to wear or not wear a mask. I'm going to be wearing a mask regardless of whoever says what. That is my right to do so, just as it is someone's right not to wear one. If somebody doesn't want to and they feel like, oh, it's fake and it's bullshit and you're a sheeple if you wear it, go, all right, that's fine. But here's the deal. I'm not going to say shit to you. Don't say shit to me, in a public, especially in thinking that somehow you're going to manipulate me to your side of thinking when it's not. I'm not here for an argument, motherfucker. I'm here just to get through the day,
Exactly.
And so let the people want to be anti-maskers, let them be anti-maskers, but don't bitch about it later. If something does occur, my empathy is going to be a low, but I am going to be like, I understand, I'm sorry to hear that. That's not, I'm sorry that this happened to you or didn't happen to you, whatever the hell it is, But I just feel like...
I'm the same way.
Just to keep to your own, stay in your lane. And when all this stuff continues happening, though, with this anti-mask movement, you know what I'm saying? And you get a lot of aggressive, nasty people on both sides. It's kind of like the Republican and Democrat bullshit, where everyone's fighting with each other, and I'm the right person, it's all collectivism. And in the end, they're not thinking independently, they're thinking according to one line of thought that they think is attached to whatever main goal they have. When it's really not. You have to be an independent thinker, and if someone believes they're an independent thinker for wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, so let them be independently thinking that decision. For us, we were wearing...
It's brought out a lot of...
I'm sorry, go ahead. Well, no, we were wearing masks well before they made it mandated, and I got looks a lot. And I was like, fuck them. And that's how I felt. I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm not vain. I'm not going to be like, oh, no. Good news is I don't have to put on a full face of makeup. Negative is I'm sweating like nuts, when I get out of a store.
Yeah.
But in the end, I'm following the procedures of cleaning, hands every time and, paying attention to where I'm touching and not touching the mask. And there's always been that moment where I'm like, I accidentally did something. I'm like, oh, that's yay for me. I just totally eliminated the whole point of this. But you live and learn from your mistakes. But I don't like the aggressiveness of the stupidity. If people don't want to wear a mask, I don't care. I have friends who can't wear masks. They really can't. And it's, the asthma's too great or they have other, conditions. And I completely understand. And I've heard some people even say, well, I tell them I have asthma and I don't. It'll come to bite you later if you're lying. But even so, take care of yourself and don't worry about it. I personally, unfortunately, I feel bad for people who are greeters that have to say, wear a mask, because of course, they wake up in the morning and they love policing adult children, to wear a fucking mask to get into the store.
Because you're gonna have them people come out and want to make a fool or try to put you on blast and act all crazy and all that, and it's just like, look, I'm just doing my job, man.
Right.
if you're a business, like, and that's where, if you have this issue, why don't you go to a mom and pop business where they can decide whether they want to do it or not.
Right.
You know, if it's that big of, I could care less if this is what you truly believe as far as not wearing masks. You truly believe it, bottom of your heart, hey, I'm all for it. If that's what you want to do, do your thing. Just like if it was the other way around, do your thing, but don't go off and say whatever about someone else doing the opposite of what you're doing.
Well, I think that's interesting. That's the interesting part right there, is that they feel this need to get in the face of another person and get very aggressive. And I'm like, is it because you need to have collectivism in your life? That, or you need.
And half of those people, a lot of times, they get their ass beat and they looking crazy. Like,
right.
Well, you should have left them alone.
Right. Just let people.
That person wasn't bothering you, and you decided to say, you know what, I'm gonna go say something,
or I'm gonna do
something.
something.
And you get beat up.
Yep.
Yeah, or shot, or whatever.
Or arrested because you did something.
Or arrested because you opened your mouth when you didn't even. You could have just let them do their thing.
And you know,
they had no issue with you, no beef.
Right.
But you decided to say, I'm gonna be an ass and go. Start some stuff.
And that's a pet peeve of mine, like big time. It's like, you know, I'm all for like somebody saying, you know what, I have a problem with this person, or I have an issue with a person, and then they take it upon themselves to confront the person. But I've seen people do more of like the passive aggressive. I don't want to talk to them, but I'm not talk shit about them. That reflects on emotional maturity. It's like, if you have a problem with a person, talk to them first. You know, try to work that shit out. You don't go up to another person and slap food out of their hand if you see that they're overweight and they're eating something that's like sugary or whatever.
And
you don't do that.
And that's that person. You know? Yeah, you don't do it. Of course, I understand what would help battle or fight against it is building up your immune system. I get that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I'm all for juicing and lifting and doing exercise. I'm all for that.
Right.
But again, I don't know what's going on in that person's life for them to be in the position that they are, whether they're overweight or whether they're whatever the case is. They could dealt with some trauma that I have no idea about.
Right.
It's not my job to go and, hey, you know, slap some food out of somebody's hand or whatever the case, because if I'm that person and I get stomped out or whatever for doing it, I can't be mad.
Right.
I deserve it. So, of course, building up your immune system, eating healthy, exercise, but not everybody has that mindset.
Right.
Not everybody's in that situation where they're like, you know what, I got to do it. You know.
And we don't live.
You don't know what's.
And we don't live in a society where, you know, we don't live as a socialist. In my opinion, we do not have a socialist society yet. Okay, so that person is none of your damn business unless they are doing something to harm someone else or you. It is none of your damn business. And we have a lot of people that just love getting in each other's business and talking shit.
Exactly, for no reason.
And I'm like, why?
Like me, I could care less. Like me, I don't mess with nobody. I don't care if you're not doing harm to me or my family or whatever, or hurting someone. Man, I could care less.
Right.
You know, and that's the mentality you should have. Now, if you're a concerned person, there's a way to go about it.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't shame nobody. You pull someone to the side and say, you know, you just have a serious conversation between you and that person. No one else has to know. It doesn't have to be on World Star. It doesn't have to be on the news.
Right.
No, none of that.
Right.
You pull that person aside and talk to just me and you. Look, man, skip everything else. Let me holler at you real quick. You know, I'm really concerned about your health, or I just, you know, I want to make sure you're okay. Is there anything I can do? Is there, you know, but don't shame nobody. Don't shame nobody.
It also,
don't do that.
It goes back to the big thing too, is if you really honestly are, this is the truth, and that's with the mask thing, this is with just the behavior people have had, like with all of this. You've seen some of the worst behavior with this whole, you know, shutdown, lockdown, whatever the hell, or the curfews, or wearing a damn mask, like, is if you really truly gave a shit about, quote, waking someone up or informing someone or trying to protect yourself or your family, a lot of people, that's how they see this, right? When someone doesn't wear a mask, so like, this person has killed my family. You know, they could cause harm to my, that's a little extreme, but that's indoctrination. That's how it works. But if you are truly concerned, instead of making a public scene, like reliving the Alamo in a public arena, it's the emotional maturity to just take someone aside and say, listen, you know, you should X, Y, and Z, or I have an issue with something like this. You know, it's just about learning how to communicate. There's a lack of knowledge of how to communicate properly, and that goes across the board on numerous things, not just this. But it's the masking thing. It's like, I personally don't give a shit. I feel fine with it because I was prepared for this anyway. Do I believe the virus is real? Yes. I've heard people say it's not a big fucking deal. It doesn't matter. I'm like, I guess it wouldn't matter if we had a solution for it. It wouldn't matter if we had a vaccine for it. But it matters because we don't have those things. And I've said this before in private to people, and likewise, you know, we had to move. That's where I've been MIA, moving in the middle of this crazy shit. But for those who are catching this episode, which will probably go up before the other one, but the there is a family pastor that passed away recently, and my son knew him well, and he was the pastor of his girlfriend's church. He attended with her, and he was 30 years old, very healthy guy, no pre-existing conditions, married, no kids. He was in the group of individuals that said that the virus, that God would protect people from the virus, and it wasn't that big of a deal. He was in that category. And he was tested positive and then admitted shortly after. His family was in communication with him daily until he went into a coma. And then he died. So within, I think, 2 to 3 weeks of him being admitted, his symptoms, he was very health conscious. So he wasn't like, he was a Hispanic male, very health conscious guy though. So he didn't neglect his health. He went in when he started showing signs. And it really started to kind of domino effect on his life. And his wife also tested positive. She's doing better than he was. But she was, I think she was hospitalized shortly after him, like a couple weeks later. He died very suddenly, very tragically. And the thing that's sad is that there are members of his church leadership that did not even bother to go see him, because they did allow some visitation, but obviously it was behind glass and, you know, that kind of shit. And they didn't even go see him. And I thought, you cowards. You know, there were people, parishioners, and, you know, people went to go see him that were able to, you know. And they went and prayed and, you know, did what they, you know, could in that end, because you really can't hold their hand. You can't be in the room. I mean, it changes the whole world of doing any kind of bedside hospice or palliative care, right? So the difference between this and the flu, for those who don't understand, is that right now all they have is palliative care. Meaning there's nothing they can do aside from make you comfortable and help you fight the virus on your own. They give you some drugs that might help, majority of them don't. Most of it is your system adapting and learning how to overcome it. The other issue is that not everyone is carrying the antibodies. So even if someone has it, this is why it's been very difficult to get that vaccine going that actually works. Right now, the only vaccines you're going to find, and this is the truth, and this is something I've thought about and read about after reading about it, is that the vaccines they have now are more about treating the virus so you can, your survivability is higher, not so much avoiding or preventing you from getting the virus, because the antibodies do not live past 4 months. So let's say you had it in the fall. You didn't know, let's just say we didn't know, right? This bad cold that went around in the fall, right, that everyone's talked about. You and I have spoken about the cough thing, that it was really bad. Let's say that was the coronavirus. Well, it's been going into well past 6 months now. So would we still be carrying those antibodies? And there's the studies that have come out say no. And a lot of them were using test groups of people who had them, checking how long they carried those antibodies, because they needed those individuals, like their plasma, for example, to help, make vaccines or for research. The problem is antibodies only last for a window of time. So that means you're susceptible to getting it again, just like the flu or anything else. But the difference is that it does really strong damage to internal organs or your heart wall or to your nervous system. The reason why this, we've talked about this so much in the past. I pulled a lot of the old live streams that we had about it just because I was like reorganizing the channel. But we talked about all this stuff well before, that they were finding the virus was actually showing up. Aside from being in the bloodstream, it was going into... There was a very significant number of cases where it was getting into the spinal fluid. And that's the reason why a lot of people were having issues. Also, it was getting the heart wall and affecting the nervous system. And it was getting into everything, kind of like a plague, right? So it was affecting people to the degree where they were getting seizures, not so much from the fever, but because of the amount that they had in their system of this virus going hog wild with, whatever pre-existing conditions. Because to be honest with you, pre-existing conditions to me, all people have pre-existing conditions. It's just a question of where you're at on that pre-existing condition. Is it a severe one? Is it something that's a major health concern? Humans all have a pre-existing condition health-wise. We just don't know it at the time, or it's not a big enough deal to be considered pre-existing condition. But if you have, let's say, a small heart issue or high blood pressure, or maybe you have seasonal allergies that actually have side effects in other parts of your body, maybe they affect your nasal cavities and things like that. That can be seen as a pre-existing depending on how severe those symptoms turn into, like a sinus infection as an example. And that could leave permanent damage in some people or whatever, right? So those are poor examples, but it's the best example I can give. But I think when you start to look at this big picture of what coronavirus does, it's not that I think it's the boogeyman coming to get us in the middle of the night, but I do believe that if we can prevent it from mutating, all the better. Because here's the deal. I don't believe it's going to just like ravage and kill everybody, but I do believe it'll leave permanent marks on health in some way, shape, or form. And for those people who are already suffering, let's say with asthma, or respiratory issues, let's say seasonal respiratory issues, like bronchitis, or, I know people who get bronchitis twice a year. Will that affect them in such a way where it sends them over the edge when they do get that bronchitis down the road? They're finding that a lot of people who've had the virus, depending on the symptoms, that there's permanent effects that are seen on the lungs and heart tissue that don't go away, and it'll take years to recover. Whereas the flu, right? Side effects of the flu are, you feel your side effects for about a year. You know what I mean? It takes that long sometimes to repair damage, like let's say you had pneumonia. You have to, all that time to recover your lungs. It'll take about a year at the worst, maybe 6 months. Whereas with the coronavirus, they're seeing damage that's going to take 5+ years to recover from, because of how it affects the lungs and how it affects the heart wall and what it does to the nervous systems. And people are still in like the loss of smell, is one of the symptoms. The fact that there's a loss of smell and taste, and that some people, they can't, they have types of seizures that are reoccurring, maybe not as severe at times, but that's a big flag to me that this got into the nervous system and it did some damage to something. So they don't know enough yet, but I mean, there's been tons of studies. A lot of doctors from Singapore and Thailand, India, Italy, obviously Spain, all these other countries that got affected, they're paying attention to these cases, because the thing about a disease or virus is that they easily mutate. So we're not looking to, in my opinion, there's no stopping of this virus, but it is in the best interest of people until we have a better care solution, or at least palliative care. So when you get the flu, you're going to get the flu, but what can they do to help you get through it without dying from it, or getting like pneumonia, a severe pneumonia, or maybe E. coli pneumonia? What can they do to prevent those things. And I think with this, they just don't have, they're still figuring it out. Every person is different. And because it's hitting different populations so differently. So, like in the Hispanic culture, I'm not surprised it's hitting so hard where we're living right now, because there's a distrust. Well, I don't need to go to the doctor. That's the, that's the Hispanic community, I don't need to go to the doctor. I'm fine. And then it evolves into something else, and then the symptoms get more severe. So if you're not let's say, an average Hispanic, male won't be in a hurry to go to the doctor as much as, let's say, his wife or child. But if he has it as well, and he doesn't have it, at least treated, or he starts to proactively try to treat whatever symptoms he can to be able to ride it through successfully, it will evolve into a deadlier form of pneumonia or some other complication related to. So yeah, I think that when you sit back and you look at how this virus is, it's, for those who don't believe it's real, that's on them. I know that's just one example I gave of someone I know that has passed away, but there's many others, and it's both here where we live and outside of the state. There's one friend, a mutual friend that both Rich and I have. She lost three close family friends. Okay, very close. Like, how families are very tight-knit in the Hispanic community, especially cousins and so on. But she's lost 3 close family friends, and 2 more are still in the hospital in ICU. And they all died from the virus. And it was because they attended a party together. Like, it was like some big party. Not a huge amount of people were there, but just enough where it got through. But she didn't attend that party with her kids because one of her children has, I think, something respiratory. So she didn't attend. And she's, grateful for that to a greater extent, but it's still somber. It's devastating to their families, all the families involved. And I think that people here, friends of friends who've lost someone, it hasn't hit home yet. And I don't want that for people, but I don't want them to wait. I don't want them to be more concerned because all of a sudden now it's killing people they know. Like, it shouldn't get to that point. We should just be utilizing a little common sense. I don't trust any authority figure 110%. But I know from what I see and from what I've been warned about that's already come to pass that you have to pay attention. If you're not paying attention to those things, never let a good crisis go to waste. Who said that? Rahm Emanuel. Never let a good crisis go to waste. You're damn right they're going to take advantage of this situation. There's enough crisis and panic and people not working. I don't sit here for a minute and say, oh, I'm all on board. This is totally normal. No, it's all crazy shit. And there's a lot of stuff, like you started to bring up earlier about vaccines. And,
me and you, we talked about so many things. And me and you, when it comes to people, the woke crowd and trying to get people to see what they're seeing, my thing is this. Me and you have, over the years, talked about so many different topics about stuff going on behind the scenes, everything like that. And no one, for a second, especially with me and you, is saying that nothing's going on behind the scenes. It's just that this virus, is the real deal.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. So whether it's being used as, to cause chaos, and then, okay, while that's going on, this is what we're going to do behind the scenes. Just like with anything, you could easily pass bills along,
oh yeah,
or whatever, get it through Congress that no one's paying attention to because they're more worried about what's going on right now.
Right.
And that's just right. Like I said, they Pentagon basically came out and said, yeah, UFOs are, yeah, and no one batted an eye. They could care less right now.
Right.
That's how serious it is. Like any other time, come on, and this was the perfect time for them to do it. Like, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, we got, yeah, they're out there, and it's just like, all right, back to whatever y'all were doing, and majority of people are like, oh, okay. It wasn't a shocker. It wasn't like this big, oh, what, you mean to tell me they know about aliens? Or
right.
No. It was the perfect time to just kind of push it out. So I'm not knocking someone that's out to find the truth about things. I'm always about finding out the truth. When it comes to this virus, however, whether we fully agree if it was originated from, China through bats or whatever the case is, or if it was man-made, no one can sit here and say they know 100% for sure. Nevertheless, the effects of this virus, the devastation it's caused to families and all that is real. And I know people are going to say, well, someone died of this, but they're saying COVID. I get that. And I get that numbers have been messed with.
Yeah.
I fully get that. So I'm not saying that that's not, because I agree with it. Yeah, numbers have been messed with. So to benefit one way or another, I definitely agree that numbers have been messed with.
Yeah.
And I've known people who, went to go get tested, didn't get tested, but then was like, yeah, you're positive.
Because the
So
tests
I've
aren't
heard
even
those
tests aren't even accurate.
Yeah.
And we've
So
known that.
I've heard those. Yeah. So I'm not saying that, but as far as the virus, just because maybe me or you aren't dealing with the effects at this time, right? We still know people. I know friends or whatever who had loved ones that passed from it. You've known friends who had loved ones that passed from it. So, we can't take away the pain it's caused from people whose family members, loved ones have died from this. So that's my thing, is no matter what's going on or what we think is going on behind the scenes, the damage this virus has caused is real.
Yeah.
So I think that's the issue. And I know there's people out there that's like, oh, it's fake, and blah, 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 blah. I can't get on board with that and say, yeah, it's fake, whatever. Now, I can say that there may be a dark forces behind what's going on. Okay. I'm not going to, I won't disagree with that. But to say that it's fake, it is, 9/11 was real, but like how it went down and what went down behind the scenes, that's another story.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's that whole...
Towers did go down.
Yep.
Yeah, the towers did go down, but again, what was going on behind the scenes, that's a whole different story.
Like what?
So
it's always going to be those fine details.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's not a matter of if the virus is real. It's more of a matter of, okay, what's the end game? What's the real plan behind this virus? What's going down? If there's anything going down, okay,
right.
Who's behind it? So that's what, really people should focus their energy on. Focus that energy on what's going on behind the scenes instead of debating whether the virus is real. Just because we're not being affected by it right now doesn't mean that others haven't, and they have.
Right.
So we can't take that away from someone who lost a loved one or witnessed or witnessed it firsthand. I'm very fortunate that, nothing's going on inside this house.
Yeah.
It's 7 of us here at a time. Me and Nina, and then 5 girls. So, I'm fortunate right now that nothing's going down. I can't speak on the future, but I'm doing, we're doing everything we can to make it as safe as possible here, just like, everybody else is doing, So, I'll never take away somebody's pain from, that's like someone saying cancer is not real. I know firsthand how real cancer is because I watched my mother shrivel up and die because of it. So, you can't take that from somebody.
No. And I think
the virus is real.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's the part that's heartbreaking is like you do have a lot of those voices out there saying, oh, well, this is bullshit, this is fraud, it's not a big deal, the flu kills more people. I'm like, yeah, well, the flu is treatable. Right now, we're watching people struggle with it and basically they're keeping them alive, like it's palliative care. And whatever drug that they pour out right now is still in the category of palliative care, not a cure. Palliative, meaning we're going to help you try to stay through this as comfortably as possible, but we're not going to be able to cure the virus. We can only help you push it out and help your immune system fight it. But in the end, if it doesn't work, we've done all we can. And that is a scary thing to understand with, I worked in hospice, and that, left an impact on me. I'd already been through, like personal, loss like you have. And you see what that does to you as a person, but then you see what it's like on another side of it. And it's changed the face of hospice care right now with this virus. A lot of these people are dying alone. And that to me is the biggest heartbreak, is that it's affecting the most vulnerable of our communities. And that raises a red flag for me, especially how it's completely just eradicated nursing facilities. And that's frightening, because the difference between, and when you're elderly, the pneumonia can kill you. But when you have this type of illness where there isn't a treatment for it, at least one that's working properly, plasma, there's something about plasma that it doesn't sit right with me about that as a form of treatment. I don't think it works the same. They say, well, there's some success, but it's not enough to call it success, in my opinion. I think it's just the drawing of straws, saying maybe this will work, but they really don't have the proper answers. And then you have all of these vaccines, the vaccine push, which we talked about a little bit earlier, and it's going to be mandated. And that's pretty clear. I mean, they're not saying that outright, but you and I both know, Rich, if we want our kids to go to school, a public school, or any kind of like program, whether it's sports, anything that's required where they need to have vaccinations, you're damn right they're going to push that. And they're going to do it on the kids first. And then the elderly are going to be a part of that as well. And those are the most vulnerable, quote, vulnerable members of society. So the question then becomes, how safe will the vaccine be if they do have this, quote, vaccine? And what exactly the hell does it do? Because we haven't had a cure for shit in so long. And we really haven't. I mean, even with HIV and AIDS, that wasn't really a cure. It's a way of combating it to a point. At least it's something. But in the end, that person still carries the virus, and it's still, they're still carrying AIDS. It's just not they're not dying of complications that were related to having a compromised immune system. So it's palliative care in a terrible way of saying it. It's a palliative care thing. So that isn't really a cure. It extends their life. They have more of a quality of life, but in the end, they're going to die from complications of that illness. That's kind of what, with coronavirus, it's much more extreme. They also do not know the lasting effects of this virus enough. We're not even a full fucking year into this. So we don't even know what the lasting health, what they're seeing based on the damage on a good many patients is that they're going to carry long-lasting effects from experiencing a coronavirus episode or having been ill with it for however long. I guess it just depends on the symptoms. Because one of the things, there was an article recently I read about a Brazilian nurse who got the virus. And there was a lot of people involved in the study because they were able to catalog and watch, him among many other healthcare providers go through their positive test, cataloging and watching and monitoring the patients through their first bout with, the virus, the coronavirus. And then the second time he got it, it was 50 times worse, and he was put on a ventilator. So you could argue that he had enough exposure to the virus, you know what I'm saying, that it just sent him over the edge, and that he was still not fully recovered from the first bout with it. And by going and getting, even though he was, quote, feeling better, wasn't showing any symptoms or signs, and he was no longer, quote, testing positive, which we know the tests are not accurate. They knew this back in January. All the way through, they've known this, that the testing is invalid. People have been known to test the standard I think is 5 times, and you know what I mean, throughout the course of 14 to 28 days, and you know they do a standard of 14 days, and even then they're still cutting corners on the testing, so because they don't have enough tests. But the reason why they do so many tests is because it doesn't pick up the positive or the negative. They're having, you know, false positives and false negatives, and because the test is not 100% accurate. So yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of frayed numbers. I agree. I think, you know, when you don't have a system put into place, or the testing isn't put into place because the type of testing they're using isn't even accurate. It's not the proper test, you know.
Yeah, and you know, until we get a handle on this whole situation, there's always going to be issues like that with the testing and everything like that. And you know, we talked about it previously about you know, certain blood types, how certain people with certain blood types deal with the virus, certain how it affects them different ways, where they're more built to handle it than others. Not saying it everybody, but people with certain blood types, how it kind of helps them in a sense as far as protecting them from the virus. You know, so we, you know, and I remember I first read about that, I was like, wow, I was like, oh, okay, you know. So a lot of things play in a factor. History of health, how strong your immune system is, you know, of course, blood type, how your body handles this, whether your body is just kicking this virus ass, like get out of here, or, you know, it just freaks out and collapses to this virus. So everybody's built differently. You know, we can't sit here and say, and that's why, you know, we can't sit here and say, oh, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake, just because you're not dealing, or you don't have no effects from it yet, or whatever the case is.
You know, there was
everybody's just.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say everybody's built differently, and everybody's body handles it differently. You know, whether they get affected or not, they handle it differently. Just like with anything, just like common cold or the flu. You know, someone could get the flu and really not have much symptoms. Someone could get it and just be sick as a dog. You know, so it just really depends.
You know, I was looking up, you know, because they, you know, it's like they do updated studies. They consider certain things. This is an article from Live Science that was from June 19th this year, and they were looking at the risk factors for more severe symptoms, and they have like age, you know, obviously diabetes, type 1 or 2, heart disease and hypertension, smoking, blood type, obesity, and genetic factors that they looked at. With age, it says that about 8 out of 10 deaths associated with COVID-19 in the U.S. have occurred in adults ages 65 and older, according to the CDC. The risk of dying from the infection and likelihood of requiring hospitalization of intensive care increases significantly with age. So, for instance, adults from 65 to 84 make up about 4 to 11% of the patient deaths in the U.S., while adults aged 85 and above make up about 10 to 27%. So the trend may be due to, in part, to the fact that many elderly have chronic medical conditions like heart disease, diabetes that can exacerbate the symptoms, which we already know about that. And of course, diabetes is the same type crap. One of the things I was looking at was, now the smoking thing, hilarious. Okay. It says people who smoke cigarettes may be prone to severe infections, meaning face a heightened risk of developing pneumonia, suffering organ damage, and requiring breathing support. And interestingly enough, though, they said, you know, that there's a lot of interesting things that they went into, how it's hitting smokers harder and so on and so forth. But then at the same time, there have been other studies that have come out that have said, actually, the nicotine has worked, in a sense, if you were subjected to the virus, it actually works against the virus. So that's a conflicting thing. So it's like you hear, now the consensus generally is that smoking is bad for you, and it does lead to other problems, you know, bronchitis or chronic health problems with respiratory, or even, you know, like COPD or whatever. But the study that was talking, there were several studies about the nicotine, and that they were finding that it actually helped quite a few patients in places like France and Italy fight the virus a little more successfully than they would have prior. So I don't know exactly what those numbers look like or get into more of that information, but that's interesting. Now, the blood type thing. It says blood type seems to be a predictor of how susceptible a person is to contracting the SARS-CoV-2, though scientists haven't found a link between the blood type per se and severity of disease. This guy, Zhao? Sure. His last name is Zhao. Dr. Zhao of the Southern University of Science and Technology in Shenzhen and his colleagues looked at the blood types of 2,173 patients with the virus in 3 hospitals in Wuhan, as well as blood types of more than 23,000 non-COVID-19 individuals in Wuhan and Shenzhen. They found that individuals with blood types in the A group, A positive, A negative, and AB positive, AB negative, were at higher risk for contracting the disease compared to a non-A group types. People with O blood types, such as O negative and O positive, had a lower risk of getting the infection compared to the non-O blood types. The scientists wrote in the preprint database on March 27th. The study is yet to be reviewed by peers in their field. So in a more recent study of blood type in the virus published in April, scientists looked at 1,559 people tested for SARS at the New York Presbyterian Hospital. Of those, 682 tested positive. Individuals with A blood type, A positive and A negative, were 33% more likely to test positive than other blood types, and both O negative and O positive blood types were less likely to test positive than other blood groups. So there's a 95% chance of the increase in the risk ranges of 7 to 67% more likely, though only 68 individuals with AB blood type were included, so the results showed this group was less likely than others to test positive for the virus. So, now, just because someone is not testing, once again, positive or negative or whatever, the problem is the testing. So, once it goes back to that, how frequently were they testing these individuals? And how many, there's a lot of factors that would need to be included in that. So the researchers did consider associations between blood type and risk factors for the virus, including their age, sex, whether a person was overweight, underlying health conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, so on. Some of these factors are linked to blood type. They found with a link between diabetes and B and A negative blood types, between overweight status of the O positive blood groups, for instance, among others. When they accounted for these links, the researchers still found an association between blood type and the virus susceptibility. When the researchers pooled their data with the research that was done by Zhao and the colleagues out of China, they found similar results as well as a significant drop in positive COVID-19 cases among blood type B individuals. What blood type might increase or decrease a person's risk of getting the virus is truly unknown. A person's blood type indicates what type of certain antigens cover the surfaces of their blood cells. So, reports I had before, though, that the O negative or O positive were the two groups that had a stronger adaptability to it. Now, Harvard had released a study back on July 17th this year, and they said they found no relationship between blood type and severity. And basically they were looking at different statistical data based on the reports we just went over. They also added in a couple other Boston area hospitals, Mass General and Brigham and Women's Hospital, and they looked at the numbers from March 6th to April 16th of this year. And it's the same thing. There was just no connection they found. Even stronger evidence was assembled by the team that symptomatic people with blood O were less likely to test positive. So that's interesting. So meaning the testing for O-type blood, we have a difficult. In the end, this is what I think, is that we're just more difficult to test. That's what I would surmise. I mean, the problem is that we're already having issues with testing, generally speaking, right? So if we're already having issues with testing, then I guess certain blood types would make it more difficult to pick up if they have something in their blood that's fighting it. That's what I take away with that.
Yeah.
I guess.
No, I totally agree with that. And, I mean, you don't truly know especially like, me having O type blood, you having O type blood, right?
Yep.
So, looking at it, we could very well have something in our blood that's like, no, we ain't giving up. We're gonna fight this thing.
Right.
Who knows? So, until the testing gets to a point where they're more accurate in the results and everything, we're not going to truly know. But and I would hope that our blood would be key to fighting this thing. If they find out, hey, people with O blood, they really have something in there that could really do damage to this virus. Okay, cool. I'm all for, if it's meaning getting people back to normal and helping people out, I'm all for it.
Yep.
But like you said, until they get that done, the testing down pat and able to accurately test better than what's going on right now, we don't know.
There was.
I would hope since blood. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. There was a thing that we had talked about before, and it was on one of the live streams, but it was in the middle of the live stream. We brought up blood types, and someone asked, "Does the blood group have a role?" This was a doctor conversation at a research when they were discussing studies about blood types. But does blood group have a role in disease resistance? Was the question. What are they known for? And someone answered him pretty well. I remember reading this before and thought that was very interesting. And this one doctor did respond, and he said, "Dear Ali," responding to the doctor, another doctor. He goes, "Blood types help us to fight diseases, tell us what major diseases, epidemics a given population suffered in its recent history." So as an example, in the last 1,000 years. So, for example, most Native Americans belong to Group O. It is believed that this is due to the syphilis epidemic and that the O type were better at fighting off the disease. Group A and B make people more resistant to cholera. Cholera. I can't talk today. Fantastic. Cholera. There we go. While AB confers to the most resistance. So O offers virtually no immunity against cholera. B confers weaker protection against the plague. This is probably why B is more common in Northeast Europe, which was virtually unaffected in the Black Death during the Middle Ages. A-type carriers are the most likely to survive the plague, but suffer from a higher rate of heart disease because of their blood is more likely to clot. They are also at risk of increased risk of contracting smallpox and developing cancer of the esophagus, pancreas, and stomach. Type O, contrarily to A, is slightly protective against cardiovascular problems. It also boosts resistance against tuberculosis, but it increases the risk of venous thromboembolism and developing peptic ulcers. It also attracts more mosquitoes, which and that is so true. It also attracts more mosquitoes, though which malaria is transmitted. A recent study revealed that people with type O blood are less likely to get pancreatic cancer, but also stomach, breast, ovarian, and cervical cancer. The ABO blood group system isn't the only antigen system found in humans. There are about 30 human blood type systems, and each have a role in immunity. Some are found in some specific populations and completely absent in others. This is the case of like Diego antigens, found only at low frequency among Mongolic peoples and America Indians. So it's very interesting. So I mean, I thought it was a very nice breakdown, but I mean they all had something to add into that, but his breakdown just kind of went more into it's about our recent history. So like, why is it affecting minority communities aside from cultural beliefs, right? Which we talked a little bit about. But is it possible that the different ethnicity groups carry susceptibilities to certain things because of the areas of which they've lived for thousands of years with migration and so on? Now they're in different cultures, and I mean, and just being, I guess, thrown to the wolves a bit when it comes to different, diseases and things that, like sickle cell is more common among African Americans, but sickle cell can still affect people who have of mixed heritage. So it was like when I had my hereditary blood stuff going on, I was very, very ill, and it was completely tied to the native stuff. But I don't get no discounts. So trying to figure out how I got it, why it was an issue. I'd never had any anemia, this type of really rare anemia I'd never had prior. And they were looking at my genetics, and the truth is that there really wasn't any answers because they haven't done enough studies about minority groups and blood. And just like with African Americans and sickle cell, I mean, that's deadly. But yet there isn't, quote, solutions. There's just palliative care. So how do you combat genetics and years of these things? I don't know. But as far as preventative immunity issues and things like that, it'd be interesting if they did more studies about minority groups being affected with blood type and taking an actual look at those things because of all the different things that go into play with immunity systems. Susceptibilities of certain groups to certain diseases, like, in the Mexican culture, it's diabetes is a big problem. That has a lot to do with the food and the culture itself of, their dietary plans that they used to have, just like by region. So I know there's significant changes in European blood introduced a whole nother bracket of problems for whoever they decide to mate with and decide to have them babies. Here we are, so we're really we're like potlucks, when it comes to our genetics. We don't really know until we get under that microscope a little bit, have our blood looked at about our immune deficiencies, but and also things that are preventative that can actually work to our favor. But it's very complicated because it's hard to know the answers to a lot of this stuff. And but I find that, like, as we're going into this, it's like understanding how our bodies work and what builds up our immune systems and what doesn't. And like vitamins, I've heard people saying I'm taking all my multivitamins. I'm like, yeah, but they're not that multivitamin. What type of vitamins are you taking? Like the over-the-counter ones, or did you go to an actual nutritionist and had them look at your blood or your hormone levels or whatever and make a decision, with your actual needs, not just grabbing the nearest bottle? Because you can that's one thing, you could throw a lot of vitamin C into your body, but you can kill yourself doing that. So, like, if you don't need it, don't do it. I need, like, a vitamin D is my Achilles heel right now.
Same here.
Oh, man. It sucks.
And every time when I was going to the kidney doctor, they're like, yeah, your vitamin D levels is low. They're like, yeah, we gotta, and so that's been mine, vitamin D. So it made me even go outside more and trying to absorb that sunlight and just trying to do more so I could get more vitamin D. But yeah, I had to take vitamin D pills and then iron pills because iron deficiency anemia.
Iron is the nastiest thing ever. Oh God! Oh.
I tell you, them iron pills. I'll tell you what, them iron pills clog me up.
Oh God!
They clog me up. I'm like, man.
The experiences I've had with iron pills, my God, I
can't stand them.
I mean, you know what it is? It's like somebody chopping up some metal and being like, "You want some metal salad?" And then you take the damn.
You go.
Oh God! And it stays in your no matter how you take it. Like, that's how I feel. I could taste it all the time until your body worked it in. And I was like, Mother of God.
See, like with me, like growing up, there's periods, not just me, but my brother, Michael, and my mom. I remember when I was a kid, my mom would have nosebleeds, and I'm like,
whoa,
like, what's going on, And she was telling me about anemia when I was a kid, and I remember times I had nosebleeds just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
The last time I had a nosebleed, actually, it was pretty crazy. This was back in 2016, and I was at Nina's dad's house, right?
Yeah.
And it was real hot or whatever. My nose was leaking like a faucet.
Weird.
Like it was just bleeding.
What led up to it? Was it just out of nowhere?
Yeah, it was just out of nowhere.
Weird.
I didn't hit my nose on nothing. I didn't, do nothing. But my nose was bleeding like crazy. It happened a couple of times during that time, and then I haven't had a nosebleed since.
Right.
Tatiana, when she was a baby, I remember going into the room and I seen all this blood on her. I'm like, what the
Oh,
heck? She had blood. Yeah, she had nosebleed too. So, I thought that was always like one of the signs of that iron deficiency anemia is nosebleeds,
right.
So, but yeah, no, I had them growing up a couple of times, and I remember my brother Michael, same with him. And but yeah, I haven't had it since 2016. But there was like a couple of days where my nose was just leaking.
Wild, man. Like I don't.
Yeah, it was just crazy.
Yeah, I didn't have
And
nosebleeds, but
the heat might have played a factor to that because it was during the summer, and out of nowhere, like I forgot what I was doing. Oh yeah, I was moving something in the house, and then I thought it was my nose just runny,
yeah,
you know. And then it was like, your nose is bleeding. I'm like, oh snap! It was just starting to come out. I'm like, oh no.
right.
So, yeah, it happened a couple of times, and then I haven't had one since then.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
this was right before I
irritating.
got sick.
Oh,
Yeah, it was right before I got sick.
it's kind of one of those things where it's like everyone has signs, like you know what I mean, like when
Hmm.
things are off the cuff. Like ever since I had that anemia, I'm not anemic anymore, but I get fatigue. All the time. Like I'll just get tired real quick. Some days I'm like,
Yeah, get fatigued and all that. Especially the
yeah,
iron defeat. It makes you like I could be asleep at times, and I'll be sleep my normal hours or whatever. I'll get up, and then after I like, for example, going to the store or something and coming back and sitting, I'm like I want to go to sleep. Like
yeah,
that's just how it is. It's like why am I slept all night? Why am I so tired?
right,
So it does. Sometimes it feels like out of nowhere you just want to just sleep. Like,
yeah,
and it wasn't like you were doing anything real strenuous or anything like that. Like you were out in the heat all day or something. It's just for whatever it is, whatever reason, you just get real tired all of a sudden.
yeah. And that's the thing is like
So,
it'll hit you hard, and you don't even really
yeah.
expect it. And I remember like even now, every now and then I'll have like a bout of it where I'm really fucking tired. I'm like,
Mhm.
dude, I feel like I ran a mile. And there's just
Mhm.
fatigue, and then it goes away. And I'm like, okay, so like the
Yeah.
next day I'm fine. But it's like
Mhm.
the doctor had told me, there's could be lasting effects. You may not be anemic because I am not, thank God, but I just have a deficiency with the D. That's my issue. Um, but I've been trying to go out in the sun more and that healthy
Mhm.
sunlight too, not try to get that nice morning sunlight instead of like the hot as hell
Mhm.
sunlight, which is nothing more than UV, deep fried.
Mhm.
But get that healthy morning
Mhm.
sunlight, get out there in the mornings, which is always nice. And also in the evening, that late afternoon, like after the sun's starting to go
Mhm.
down, you get that real nice sun that's
Mhm.
right before, it's not like heavy, hard, nasty
Nah,
sun.
not like no 1, 2 o'clock in the
Uh-huh.
afternoon sun. No, not
Yeah,
that.
that's nothing
No.
but UV and hate. So, but like you
Mhm.
get that nice healthy sunlight, then you're good to go because the morning's the best time to go out, for the sunlight because that's, you're not getting heavy UV. So it's like certain times of the day, late afternoon and early morning, when the sun's coming up and you got that nice sunlight in the morning. But, I think it's one of those things that's like you don't realize how delicate our systems are until you have a health problem. And then you're like, fuck, it's one thing after another. And,
Well, we took it for granted when we were kids. The
hmm
majority of us.
hmm
Like for me, I I rarely got sick when I was a kid. So for me, I was known to come to school with a freaking jug of juice or a 2 liter or something, and I was playing baseball and football and all that. I could order me 2 large pizzas and a 6 pack of Pepsi, and I would still have a washboard stomach.
right.
Like it wasn't. I was like I felt like I was Superman.
yeah.
Now that I'm 37, I'm like I knew I should have stopped doing that. But when you're a kid, if you rarely get sick and you're strong and you and me, I was real cocky, so you add that to it, I was like, oh, I felt I was invincible,
Right.
I that's how I was. And uh, looking back at it, hindsight being what it is, do I wish that I could have changed that? Of course. knowing what I know now,
Yeah.
I would have never did half the stuff I did as far as health wise.
Right.
But like, back then we could eat like horses and still
Yeah.
when again our metabolisms was just magnificent.
Oh yeah.
We could eat like a horse and not have to worry about, oh, I'm fat or oh, I'm overweight. No, I come in, I could still run fast and strong and do all that and eat like a horse and be just fine. Now I can't even do that. Let me go ahead and eat like a horse if I want to.
Right.
Be walking around here with a stomach all out, breathing all heavy. I can't do that now. So, a lot of us we took that for granted as far as our health and stuff, and that's why with my girls I talk to them all the time about, of course kids they want candy all the time or cookies and all this and that. And it's like, you got to be careful about what their intake is when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. And with with boys, it's like they have a lot of excess energy. You know what I'm saying? Where girls, it starts, their bodies go through changes and it slows down just a bit, so they gain weight, for that period of time, and then it starts to come off again a little bit. And sometimes it stays, sometimes it goes, but it's part of that hormonal change, right? So it's like I had to have that sit down talk with the hoagie, the small squirrel, hoagie squirrel, and we had that discussion. It's like, because she was going through the changes, yay, and much to the horror of the calm squirrel, but she, I've had to explain to her, I'm like, your metabolism's going to slow for a little bit as you're going through changes hormonally. Hormones going to be a little all over the place, and then a lot of it's staying active. And I had to remind her that. I'm like, especially with girls, so it's like, boys, they do the same thing, but they have so much excess energy, or maybe they have a naturally high metabolism for some, that they're still moving. And I know boys that struggled with weight, when they got through, the hormones hit, and it was like, boom, and they were having problems with, learning how to, handle their health and their weight and things like that. And a lot of it, the answer is just being active, because when you're young, you can get that weight to pour off of you. When you get older, it's harder, and it's very difficult.
It's real hard.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a person that was active when you're young and then you stop.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
As you got older, and then you have to it's like you're starting all over. Like with me, after I got sick, and then when I was somewhat okay to, go in the gym and try to do. I tried to go in the gym and like I went on a bench press. And it was just 135 pounds. I couldn't. That thing felt like I was trying to bench press an elephant. Like I looked silly in there because Nina was on the treadmill, and I'm sitting there like,
right,
look crazy in there. And I hurried up and got up, made sure no one was looking at me. But that's how it was. Like it was that bad where I couldn't do anything. Like my strength went away. It was like I had nothing. It was just all leftover. So when I I had to start over, and thankfully, my best friend Marcus, he's been lifting since he was like 12. So when me getting back into it, it took a lot, and he helped me get back to a point where I was somewhat okay. And I just it's real tough to have that mindset to, especially watch. I just sent you. Here's a picture of me. I just sent it to you.
Okay.
I was 20, just turned 20. But as you can see, I just turned 20, and I was like, that was me. I'm good, like body wise, I was good. But yeah, that was me at 20 years old. So you can see, like I was able to do all that, and it was not a big deal. Now, me being 37 years old, you have the mental toughness you have to get yourself back to that level, somewhat or whatever. It's more difficult now because you don't have the same kind of energy.
Right.
Not saying everybody my age, because there's people like that still have the energy they had when they were, but it's something that they're like committed to ever since and haven't stopped. But when you have gaps and stuff in your life, situations come up, you have kids, or whatever the case is, stressors, or whatever the case is that may alter that mindset and slow you down. When you get back in there, it's tough because visually you know what you want to look like. You want to build up your immune system and all that, and you see people in the gym that's sitting or walking around swole, and so you're kind of like, wow, I remember when I looked like that,
I'm showing the
So
image.
it's
right.
tough.
I'm showing the image right now of your 20-year-old self, and now you were
20-year-old me. So, I loved being able to do all that at that age and still like had mad body, and I was like, so, it's really, and that's why I don't judge nobody now, especially with what's going on. I don't judge nobody about their health because I don't know what they've been through. I don't know what they're going through. It's easy for me to look on the outside and be like, hey, you need to boost up your immune system.
right.
You need to go to the gym. You need to do this. You need to do that. I don't know what's going on with their lives.
Right.
I can't. So, yeah, it's definitely important, especially right now that we all try to build up our immune system any way we can and try to get some healthy, whatever, even if it's just going to a park and just doing a little walk every day, whatever we can do to help your body in whatever way you can. It's definitely important. But like I said, I don't knock nobody, and I just hope that we're able to get through this and look back and was like, man, that was a crazy year. All that went down.
Yep.
And stuff. So, it's just a matter of hoping that things somewhat get better. But then again, ain't no telling what's going on behind the scenes when it comes to this, and when we get on the other side, how things are going to look.
Right.
So overall, the whole situation is just crazy.
Yeah, Rich, everyone saw Rich's picture there that he had of 18-year-old
young
or
Thundercat
20-year-old.
Richard.
Yep. And then I sent a pic to Rich of me at 18. My friend sent it to me. And this is right before I had my, not right before, but like a year before I had my eldest Squirrel. And there's me at 18.
See, look at that. Yeah, we're young Thundercats, man. Yeah.
Yep, I was 18.
Look at that.
I was like, whoa, look at me. I was 18. Holy shit, when did that happen? I was outside hanging out with her. But yeah, like she said that to me, and I was like, holy shit, where'd you find that? I told her, I said, you found that in a vault. I'm like, you need to go put that back in the vault.
The picture I sent you, I was probably about 250 pounds. I was like around that, about 250.
Wow.
At that time.
So
that was still like my football weight, when
right.
when I looked like that.
And isn't that crazy? Like when you look back at your young self, you're like, damn. And there was still a part of you, somewhere in you where you were like, oh, I could have been this, I could have been bigger, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like that's in the back of your mind in small ways. And now you look at yourself going, that was actually damn good. Yeah.
But you know what? I'm glad I'm past. I mean, of course, being in the gym, you want to, and I'm truly hoping that, for me personally, that the gyms reopen. I know they're talking about it out here, and they've been battling back and forth with the governor out here about reopening the gyms. For me personally, I need to get back in there because that's, but another thing, I'm glad right now because you don't understand how cocky I was during that time. Like, I was super cocky. So,
Well, you know how that is. It's humbling. It's that humbling moment, right? Where you're like, okay, it's like as you get older, things you start coming into like terms. You come to terms.
Yeah.
Like Squirrel.
Exactly.
He was looking at his old pictures. He's like, God, man, because he's always, he was a skinny guy for like most of his life, and then, he got with me and I force fed him. No kidding. But like he gained weight essentially after the kids and lost it, and it's like you don't really start thinking too much about your health until you start to have some weird shit go on. So he got
And that's
he was
true.
pre-diabetic, and then it turned into diabetes very quickly. It's hereditary in his family especially. And so he managed to
Hmm.
get off of that completely. So he's no longer even
Hmm.
pre-diabetic anymore because of weight loss. And
That's good.
that was awesome. I was like, thank God, because I didn't
Hmm.
want him to go down the road of insulin, and then
Hmm.
be codependent on that, and God knows whatever else health problems that could come out of that as well. His sister managed to
Yeah.
do the same thing with weight loss, and but their dad has it, their mom has it, and one of their other siblings has it. And it's like if you can avoid being diabetic, you can absolutely get off of the, what do you call it, the red flag zone by diet alone. Like it can
Oh yeah.
make a huge difference. And
I'll tell you one thing that helped me was intermittent fasting.
hmm
I live by that. And for me, that's like the quickest way for me to lose weight is intermittent fasting on top of what I was already doing. So like, I won't, for example, I won't eat until the afternoon. Let's say 3 o'clock. I'll
right,
eat, and then I'll eat again around 7ish or whatever, and then that's my cutoff. I won't eat again until the following afternoon. So that's the intermittent fasting. So between that time, I'm just drinking water or whatever, and so on average, when I was doing intermittent fasting, it'd be between 16 to 18 hours a day.
right,
I would do intermittent fasting, so that really helped. And with me, because of my situation, it made me be more appreciative of how much my water intake is. So I drink about 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons of water a day.
right.
So yeah, it's just something you just have to be committed to, and it's easier said than done. Because let's be real, there's a lot of foods that we love to eat, that may not be on the healthy side, but we eat it because it tastes good.
Right.
So for a lot of us, and then a lot of times, the average person, they're tired they're worked all day, they're tired. So a lot of times when they're coming home or they're tired, they worked all day, what's the best thing to do? Okay, I'm going to stop somewhere and grab some food for the family. There you go.
Right.
Whatever that place is. So, it's not always, it's something where you just have to be committed. Like with me, I get the prep. I got the prep stuff, right? Meal prep for the week out,
hmm
and it's like you literally have to spend a day. Like for example, if you spend a Sunday and just meal prep
Right.
for the whole week out, so it's just your situation and just being committed to that and mental toughness. It's a lot that factors. It's not always easy for someone to just be like stop dead what they were normally doing and just be like, okay, I'm gonna do this from now on.
Right.
Sometimes you got to ease into it. Sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes some people just can't do it.
Right.
They just don't have the mental makeup for it. They're just like, I can't. It's too much.
And that's the
So it
thing,
just really depends.
with the mental prep thing, is that
Hmm.
this year, especially with all the shit that's gone on, right?
Hmm.
It's really brought a couple different things out of people, and a lot of it is the lack of mental preparedness. Not so
Yeah.
much, oh, okay, are we prepared at home and all this other shit. You could have a
Hmm.
stockpile of toilet paper till next frickin' Monday, and be happy as hell, but still not be
Hmm.
mentally prepared for other things that are going to arise. Now, whether that is
Hmm.
the lockdown, the lockdown by far was the craziest shit
Hmm.
that I've experienced, because it was very, like, I went out and took some video. I have a bunch of video I set aside, and I've been trying to get positioned to go out to a couple of places here to take more video, just to
Hmm.
kind of catalog shit that's going on here. Um, but it was like the mental preparedness of going in somewhere. It was a little overwhelming at first. Like, I had anxiety about it, and I was like, oh shit, because it was
Hmm.
so locked down. There was law enforcement presence. There was now we have National Guard down here, but seeing all of those things, and it's not normalized for me at all. Like, none of it is
Hmm.
still not normalized, and it won't be for a
Hmm.
long time. And I don't think because I went through Andrew, like they instituted a lot of the same things they did after the hurricane, that type of emergency situation that we had there. And I had told him, I said, like, Squirrel was going to go to the grocery store, and they were doing a limit of 10 people in the grocery store, and they had a line out front. And this was a...
Yeah, I remember that. I was going down out here too. I remember that. That was
And
crazy.
that's what they did after Andrew. And I remember being in line with my mom. Look, we were just there for ice and water, the basic stuff. And we were ill prepared, to be honest. We really were, because Andrew was like we had less than 24-hour notice that the thing was going to turn. And when you live in Florida, and this is the truth, people you get so accustomed to near misses. Like Hugo was supposed to hit us, and it didn't. It decided to go to South Carolina. So you get a false sense of security. So the truth was, there was a lot of people that were not prepared for Andrew. So we're in line, and there were fights breaking out in line. National Guard were getting involved. Military presence was there. It was a lot to take in, but they were only doing 10 people in the store at a time, and there wasn't much of a store to begin with. So basically, when you went in, it was like water, ice, get out. You know, you pay, you get out.
Yeah.
And you were lucky if you got water and ice. They had curfew set up, so if you needed to get stuff, you had to go after hours. You know, you had to like sneak around on the residential streets to avoid checkpoints. That Checkpoint Charlie's fucking everywhere. It was a whole nother experience. So when this shit went down, I saw the exact same stuff going on, and I told him, I said, "This is wild." And it bothered me, and I was like, this is not cool. Like, I was not okay with any of it, you know, and I'm paying attention to the checkpoints, I'm paying attention to the curfews, I'm paying attention to what the county judges are saying that are releasing certain, you know, announcements and things like that. As we are approaching the fall, and this is something, you know, never mind what the assholes on TV say, but as we're approaching the fall, I believe, based on things that I've been told, that we're looking at not so much September, but November. You know, basically, if you need to get anything done, you know, like medical-wise, like let's say you need to go get prescriptions, go get that done now. Don't wait until it's like full swing crazy town again, or there's a reason provided that they need to lock down again. November is the magic month. So be proactive prior to November. Get your doctor appointments done. Take the kids in if they need to get their vision, if you can. Get the vision doctor done. Get the dental done if you can. I mean, the dentist office is a whole nother ball game of shit. But but the point is try to get those appointments done that you need that are more of a priority. Like I need to go to the I have a big priority of needing my contacts. So I need to go and get that done, that prescription done again. So, you know, but as far as stuff, I mean, outside of the mainstream media bullshit, you know, the hoopla of, oh, the fall, you know, that's preparing people, you know, for the inevitable, because a second wave will certainly come in some sense of the word. I don't know when. I know that Spain and Italy are slowly experiencing their second wave now. And it's coming. It's not going to come in like a tidal wave. It's going to come in like a trickling, and then the tidal wave comes later. So that's just beginning there, and that could be for numerous reasons. Whereas here, they're saying it'll be our fall season, and to the winter.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, if that's the case, that means for this, even the little freedom that we have right now outside of curfews and other bullshit, we're looking down the barrel of bigger issues going forward. So, as far as on your end, have you heard anything about fall? Whether it's regarding the school stuff or regarding that's a big one.
More about, you know, more towards the school stuff. Not really anything else that I could think of right now. They're right now talking about a plan on reopening the businesses they closed recently. You know, the gyms, the bars, movie theaters. So they're putting out guidelines for that, which is similar to the guidelines for the schools. So that's the latest. They've been, the last thing I heard was the latest drop. It dropped down as far as cases. It was like 12 or something, or 900. Now it's down to 600 cases and only forgot how many deaths. But it seems to be going down right now. We'll see. But yeah, right. The latest is their plan, because, like I said, these gyms, they took the governor to court. Like, they were not playing. They were upset. So they got something in their favor as far as like them saying these gyms have a right to receive guidelines on reopening, something like that.
Right.
But the judge did that in their favor. So now it's more of, because I get emails from EOS. That's the gym I go to, EOS. So I get emails about like updates about reopening and all that. So they're hoping within the next couple of weeks they can reopen. And you know, people have their opinions about the gyms reopening. I'm like, look, for me personally, I'm like, this is not a bar or anything. You're going in the gym to work out, to get fit, to get healthy. That's how I look at it as a person who likes to go to the gym.
Right.
So for a person that don't normally go to the gym or anything like that, of course they're going to have opinions. But the same thing could be said about Walmart.
Yeah.
Or Fry's or Target or what these other stores that you have a lot more people in that are still open.
Yeah.
So the gym, you don't go to the gym just to hang out. We're just, I'm at the gym, we're just kicking it. No, you're in there putting in work. So, you know, for a person like me, or, you know, a person like Marcus or whoever else that loves the gym, you're in there to get stronger, to get healthier, whatever. You're not in there just to walk around and loiter or whatever. You're in there to put in work. So that's how I look at it. Again, I don't knock anybody who disagrees with the gym's reopening.
Right.
But for as a person who loves to go to the gym, I understand. And there are people, well, you can work outside and go do extra. I'm like, okay, number one, not everybody could deal with 115 degree weather every day trying to work out.
Right.
Okay, well, get a home gym. Okay, not everybody's balling like that where they can have a big old home gym.
Right.
You know, so
and
you have to look at
the equipment that they have
the
at gyms.
equipment's
Like I and then like
it's not cheap.
You know, and that's the thing is like I know how expensive gym equipment is. It's ridiculous. And you know, it's like of course I've encouraged, like I have certain friends who are such a high risk though, right? That going into a gym wouldn't be a good idea for them. And I said, just go get yourself. And they did. You know, they found a deal, whether it be on Craig's, they sanitized the hell, cleaned that thing up. Now they got a treadmill or a Stairmaster or whatever the hell they needed. And that way they have something to work at home on. But no, not everybody can afford to go and buy one of the nice
and if you're
weights, you know, the whole nine. Nah, man.
Yeah. And if you're a high risk, you know you shouldn't be in a gym. So that shouldn't even be like a factor to you, like, oh, no, I can't do that.
Right.
Hey, more power to the people who go to the gym. I can't do that. I got to work out from home.
And
that's all good. But don't knock people who actually going in the gym focused on their health and be like, oh, y'all shouldn't be going there. You know what? I'll risk going to the gym. You know, because I was going to it before they closed it.
Right.
And, you know, that's just something personally that I do. That's my way of getting healthy and strong and all that, is going to the gym.
Right.
So, you know, for people to be against it, I'm like, you know, that's your prerogative.
Right.
Don't bash nobody who's in a gym working out. What kind of stuff is that? I'm bashing you because you're in there getting healthy.
And a lot of it is like they have once they get those guidelines going, because the gyms here are partially open, like they limit how many people can go in at once, but they have it set up where it's like things are sanitized and stuff like that. A lot of the business here are working at like half capacity, you know, like salons and things like that, which I can understand with salons, you know, and you know, manicurists and so on, and massage therapists, I mean, chiropractors, people who are very close proximity, you know, it's a whole new world now, you know, and dentists are the same thing. Like, you know, I was supposed to go into the dentist, I made an appointment, ended up canceling it. They had an incident with a patient that came in positive, and then they had to shut down, and you know, they had to test everybody and all this other bullshit. And I was like, I don't really, they reopened, they quote, sanitized the facility, but we still don't really know the cleanliness process of that, and how clean that is. And they really, unfortunately, they can't use, like, for example, they won't be able to use drills. The same kind of drills they would technically use, like, mechanical tools because of the splash. So they have to, if it's a surgical thing, then they have to, I mean, it's like, I had a friend of mine that went, and she was like, it was like going into, like, you remember that movie Outbreak? I'm like, yeah. She's like, Dustin Hoffman was up in there and doing my teeth, and I started laughing. I was like, no. See, I already have a phobia of dentists. That shit's just taking it to a new level,
Yeah,
So
a lot of people do.
and I'm like, what the fuck? So I put off going. I'm just pushing it out a little longer, until I have to go, which is coming soon. But it's just, I feel like, okay, I have to be mentally prepared for that, because that's a lot to deal with, because you're going to be the singular patient in, they're all wearing scrubs head to toe, they're covered up head to toe, you're there, and they can't use mechanical tools. So if I have to get a crown or I have to get anything else done, good luck to me. I'm just...
No, y'all better knock me out.
Oh yeah, I already told...
Knock me out.
I told ComScore, I'm like, well, we're going to be paying for that sedation, because I'm not going to be able to handle that. That's just too much. That's like torture for somebody who has phobia, So,
Yeah.
And I don't like talking about it, but it's true. But those are things that are like to adapt to. The gyms here are half capacity. The truth is they have to sanitize the hell out of everything between every single person, and then they
the gym I went to, like, they were doing a good job when I was in there. Like, so it wasn't like they were just sitting around not doing it. They were actually, like, the workers, they were actually on it.
Yeah.
So,
I say let them reopen, and, obviously just don't take it for granted, take it serious. Obviously, these businesses are definitely taking it serious. I would say the majority are, because that's their money. And if you fucking get one person in there that brings the plague in, your business is going to be shut down until you can reestablish it.
At this point, it's a risk wherever you go. Even if it's just to the grocery store.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. Like I said, I can understand if it's a bar or something. No one needs to be at a bar. Yeah, this is what's crazy here.
I agree with that.
They closed down the gyms, but they still got casinos open. And I'm like,
oh my god, dude! I can't tell you how many people I know have gotten sick at the casino, not from losing money, but just from getting a plague from being in there.
Okay, so you close down a business that's about health, but you leave the casino open.
It's an essential service, Rich.
Like, going broke is more important than going to the gym for your health.
Cash money.
That's where I'm like,
cash money.
I'm like, look, I'm like, if y'all gonna shut them all down.
Right.
Don't just nitpick and say, well, the casinos could stay open, because I'm still, like, trying to understand why the casinos are open. Now, I don't know if it's just a different thing because it's on native land.
That could be it.
And it's under native rule. And I'm wondering if that's the case, where it's like, we can't force you guys to close down. So if that's the case, then okay, I understand that. But I'm just like, I don't understand the benefit of a casino staying open.
I don't. Well, it's just about their cash flow. Because in the end,
and that's the only thing I could think of. Yeah, it's just about the money.
Unless the nation plans on covering that shit, I'm sure there's some hold harmless that they have people sign if they want to enter or some shit. Because
like, we still need the people to come in here and go broke.
If you want to come in and sign this piece of paper so you won't sue us when you get the plague,
Yeah, and well, that's how it is. Like with a lot of for Tatiana's volleyball, they have that in a waiver.
Yeah.
And a lot of these, youth sports, they have that, which I understand.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, I want the girls to still be active. I don't want them to just sit here and just.
Yeah.
And they, and I talk to them, and they understand. like I said, Ariana's taking a break. She did her thing, and she's just focused on school work and her volunteer work because she wants to, do the extracurriculars for her high school resume. So she's, the conservation volunteer work and the animal volunteer work. She wants to focus on that right now, and then she'll revisit softball in the spring. And for Tati, her thing was she missed her spring season because they canceled that for volleyball, but they're going to start the fall season again, so she's ready for that. So, that's a risk that I have no problem with they're doing because they're doing something that's keeping them active, fit, whatever the case is.
And they made the decision themselves too, an educated one.
Exactly. So it's not like, no, y'all gonna go out there and play. No, it wasn't nothing like that. It was like, if y'all don't want to do it, I fully understand.
And their girls are very driven. You know what I mean? They're very driven to do things and stay active already. And like, they're more miserable when they're not doing something. And
there's been times, that's why they asked me to take them. Can you take me to Target? I'm like, for what? Oh, just so I could look around.
Yeah, just to get out.
And I'm like, yeah, and it's sad. Like, that's, they would normally want to go to the mall, but, the mall right now, I just told them, the mall's just not it's just not a good idea right now.
Oh, no. Like, the beef got drugged to the mall once with his woman because she wanted to go grab some makeup from one of the stores, and he was like telling her not to touch it. he's like just don't even go there with it, because they were having this outbreak has been really bad here, and when I say bad, I think the average, I don't know how many deaths there were today. I think it was actually kind of lower for once, but we're still about 600. And I don't remember what the county numbers are. That's a good question, actually, because I look at the valley as a whole, and then I look at our actual county, because our valley is so large. There's, we're a large community. It's just the way it is here, but the numbers were really significant, and I was like, okay. I mean, they're still high. They're still, being wary with people and just being a little, better to be safe than sorry, type thinking, which I'm okay with for now. Especially as we approach the cooler months. I mean, we don't get it isn't freezing here like it is in a lot of other places, but it's definitely cooler. And we do get, usually we have wet winters, so we'll get a lot of rain. And let me see here, what were the numbers today? I'm pulling up the numbers now. I'm so sick of hearing about the stimulus check, I could just not give a shit. It says here, okay, Hidalgo County, that's where I'm at. It says Hidalgo County reported on Sunday that 17 people have died after contracting the virus. The numbers reflected Saturday and Sunday. So since the pandemic started here in Hidalgo County, it has killed 807 people. The county has also reported that 207 people have tested positive for the virus, bringing the total number of cases now to 19,741 people in our county. And that, I mean, our county, that's a pretty big number based on our population. We're not a huge county, but that is a nice chunk of the population. But yeah, it's one of those things where we're trying to curb it from mutating. That's kind of like what my brain thinks of, is, okay, how can we curb this? How can we avoid this from progressing? What is your take on this whole stupid stimulus thing? This package relief deal that they can't figure out how to fucking finish. We've had two deadlines.
I barely and it ails me because I was being lazy and filed my taxes late. So I barely just got my stimulus from the first one. The first one I just got for Friday.
Wow.
Yeah, this past Friday. Honestly, I think for me, I would be more I get stressed if I didn't have a job or like I was struggling like super bad and just going through it.
Yeah.
Then I'd probably be like, man, what are they gonna do? What's going on? But fortunately, I've been at my job going on 8 years now, and I don't have that kind of stress.
Right.
I would hope they would figure it out soon, to especially the people that's really struggling,
Right.
need that extra help.
Yeah.
So I would hope they would come to an agreement soon. I honestly feel it shouldn't be taking this long.
No.
But when you have these two parties having a pissing contest,
Yeah.
It just, all they're doing is hurting the people.
Yeah.
Acting like it's like, come on, let's get a deal done. Let's boom, boom, boom. Skip everything else. Let's help the people. So here, boom, boom, boom. All right.
Right.
I know that Trump signed an executive order recently to help with the unemployment, and was it the student loans or?
Oh yeah, they're gonna do. I guess is it a deferment? I think it's a deferment. And then let's see, what was it? So the first part of it was doing an extension, like $400 instead of $600 a week for the unemployment, and then the other portion of it, my brain's blanking now, but there's another one piece of it that was like, okay, the eviction thing. So basically a mortarendum to prevent people from being evicted on rent, not being able to pay rent or whatever. So that got extended, through that executive order. I haven't heard a whole lot. It's like I have to catch up on so much stuff goes on now that I feel like I'm always having to double check and say, okay, where the hell are we on, this or that, or different pieces of legislation, like to figure out what people are doing. But
yeah,
the whole stimulus thing has been nothing but, at least this portion of it has been nothing but like little kids fighting in a mud puddle.
Yeah.
I don't want to give you what you want. So stupid. I was like, come on, man. And it's like Pelosi opens her mouth, I get pissed off. Trump opens his, like any of these people, I don't fuck them both. Like, honestly, these kids need to just come together, find what you need to do. I mean, the thing that the Democrats were pushing for was for more state and local funding for governments, whatever that's for, and for us, it's been utilized in interesting ways. Like here, they just passed, they're trying to pass a law or a piece of legislation here to the county right now this is crazy, Rich. They want to give families that have lost a loved one to the virus $2,000 to help pay for the funeral. Because that's how much is going on with the funerals. They're so backed up on funerals now, because you have to think natural causes. You have people that are just going in for natural causes, but now you have this amazing amount of overflow. And not all funeral homes will take this is really sad to me. It's a sad thing. Not a lot of funeral homes here will take COVID positive patients that died from the virus. They won't take them. So now you have that issue. So there's this massive overflow of patients. Hospitals here are overwhelmed. The hurricane, when that came through, they handled it in my opinion, they handled it as best as they could, and they did fine. But the convention center here has been opened up to take in the more critical care patients. And that's important. But it's just, there's a lot of local things that they're trying to work on in our area. In other cities, they're doing their programs too to help people, whether that's nutritional based, getting people to do the census is another thing around here. It's been really hard for people to do, I guess, or just to get people to respond because people have lost their damn homes. That's it's like like we had to move in the middle of this, not because of anything serious. More or less, they were just selling the house we were living in because, hey, they thought it would be a great time to to do that. And we had to get the hell out of there. But moving in that process just to find a home was crazy. I mean,
I believe it.
I mean, we were just very lucky because we got to speak to the actual owner. You know, he was the one directly running it, not a management company, which was fine because fuck them. But it was just, you know, we were very lucky to get where we were at because there were so many people looking for homes to rent. And, you know, a lot of evictions were going on around the time that, you know, we were looking. And we were like, because we had time. I mean, we were lucky we had time. It's not like we were being evicted or you have to go, we're selling the house. They were like, but the problem was they were bringing people into the home while we were there to show the home. And I was like, no, And, you know, they're wearing masks, all this
we ain't
bullshit.
doing that.
No, not, and we, you know, we had to leave every time, take all the animals. That to me was a stressful thing. That was so stressful I couldn't even think straight. But we got through that, and it was like, okay, we made it out towards the other end. Now we're in our new home. Everything's like chill again. It's like, okay, cool. We're starting to get chill again. But with the amount of people that are being evicted, it's crazy. Like the percentages, like there's a lot of charts that were out there talking about the percentages of evictions in the United States if we just, let's say tomorrow, didn't have that eviction protection. How many people are looking at being evicted? It was huge numbers. Like population.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Article about how high the rate is, the eviction rate is going right now.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty wild how bad it's gotten. But I wish they would just get the damn stimulus done. No matter what, just get it done. Just get it done so we don't have to keep seeing stupid articles talking about what could you get and what couldn't you get. And, you know, promising people, like, bullshit, you know, and, like, and talking about proposed bills, not actual bills. You know, like, first off, we don't really know what they're going to come out of there with. A lot of people are just kind of like, you know, just get it done already. And they're fed up with both parties, so that's kind of nice. It's nice to see that in the comment section, you know, is to see angry people going, fuck both of you. I'm like, that's what I like to see. But
yeah, just get it done.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, you know, who cares what y'all going through?
And as
whatever high school, it's like high school drama between them. It's like, that's what it really is. And it's like, make up your mind.
Right.
Let's get this done.
You know, and the truth is like, we really don't know what's coming. But we know that things are going to get difficult for a lot of people, especially with the holidays approaching. Businesses are going to be taking hits. I mean, we still see gaps right now in, you know, our supply chain for numerous reasons. There's numerous reasons why businesses not being able to fully open and function can definitely affect the supply chain because maybe they have to run out and get a bunch of supplies from their local Walmart just so they can open up for that 1 week. You know, because they can't order things in bulk like they were doing before because they don't know if they're going to be open. I mean, there could be a possibility, or the possibility that certain imports and exports are not coming in because of the China negotiations with trade embargoes and all that other crap that's going on. Or it could be possible that, hey, there's not going to be as much meat in some stores because of the same reasonings. You know, with farmers and meat packers and so on not being able to have the same amount of product that they had before because a lot of businesses are not running at 100% capacity. But I know down here, like, we had weird shortages at certain places. Cans, like tin cans, are on a shortage. Coins, which I think is funny, about the coin thing. There's been, you know, I noticed this weeks ago, but they had about how, like, you know, we don't have there's a national coin shortage. I'm like, I suspect that's more pushing us towards digital currencies. That's my opinion. Because how the hell can you use cash?
That cashless society, yep.
Right, like how can you...
I said the same thing as soon as I started seeing that. I'm like, oh, I know what they're trying to do.
Yeah, because in the end they're going to say, well, the money's dirty, right? I thought they would go for that, where it's like, oh, the money's tainted with the HIV and, you know, God knows what else. And that'd be their first way of pushing that. But I mean, they could use the virus as an excuse, but it didn't make sense to me at all. I was like, bullshit, that's just a way of getting people to use their cards and going 100% digital, you know, currency. And so, I don't know, none of that shit makes me feel very at ease.
Yeah, no, honestly, I totally agree with that. like I said, that was the first thing I thought when I was like, wait a minute, nah. You've been hearing about a cashless society for years now, and then all of a sudden there's coin shortage. I'm like,
Yeah.
Like I went in there. I went to the store today. I was just like, hey, can you guys break a 50? They're like, no. I'm like, interesting. Well, if you have it on your debit card, I'm like, I know I have it on my card. I was just, trying to break a 50. So.
Do you have it on your card? That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not the question I had. But yeah, like the money thing is interesting. Like they, if you give them cash, it's like they don't have change. And so, right now we're pretty much 100% using just our debit cards and stuff like that. And it makes me uncomfortable, but
it does. I feel you.
And I know it's this whole, they're using different contexts for it. They can use the shortages as an excuse all day long, but in the end, if it's not that, they're going to use the virus as another excuse. So it's like, like when you have, example, the hurricane, the one thing you should have on you is cash. Because if the truth is if electricity goes out, gas pumps aren't going to work in most cases. Okay? And they won't have the debit machines working. So how do you spend any money when there's no electricity? How do you get products or goods? So, when a hurricane's coming in, you want to have cash on hand and gas tanks full before the electricity goes out, before you're up, up a creek without a paddle. I was telling Squirrel, I said the other thing that always bothered me is the same alignment though with technology is their landlines. Like we don't have landlines anymore. Post hurricane.
I still have mine.
Right.
Like I have, and the reason why I got one is just in case there was emergency.
Yeah.
Whether it's cell phones ain't working.
Yep.
So at least I still have a landline.
Well, the truth is.
So I decided.
The truth is landlines. Like if it's not internet bullshit, but it's just a landline, an actual solid landline. If the electricity goes out, that phone is still going to work. And
this day and age, I don't know how many people have an actual landline because everything's connected to your modem.
Right.
If you do have a home phone, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we lived up in the mountains. We had a landline because that was easier to connect. Because it was the way the line was. It was easier to connect outside of the mountains because if we had enough snow or poor weather or whatever, we couldn't use a cell phone. It just wasn't possible. And so having that home landline made a huge difference. But when you take that away, it's like, well, what's a better way to push people towards the cities and outside of other areas than to take away those resources? I mean, I could see it happening, this whole, like, lack of better words, the whole Agenda 21 planning of smart cities. And, you can see it. Like with this whole pandemic, you can see it. Because it's a great way to push people into cities, into closer proximity and getting them out of, and if there are high populated areas, just pushing that population together further. Because you take away those amenities like landlines or supply chains, you start to, naturally people will migrate to where there are supply chains and where they can access, the things they need. And, with automobiles and things like that, like, it's so crazy, like, how much we're not driving as much now. I mean, there's nowhere to really go, which is fine, I guess. I'm like, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But going to work is not a thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But, yeah, not going to work, things like that. It's weird when you start to think, how often am I driving?
Like I said, Saturday was the furthest I drove out somewhere in a while.
Right.
I normally drive, fortunately I have all the places I need to go around me.
Right.
So I really don't drive far at all. And where I had to go Saturday was out there by my job, out in North Phoenix. So I haven't driven that far it's been a good minute. There really wasn't no need to.
Right.
So yeah. I really haven't had to drive much. The last time I drove somewhere far was when we went up north to Flagstaff to see that volcano
Yeah.
around my birthday back in March. So, you're right. There really hasn't been a need to really drive somewhere far. I have 2 Walmarts by my house. I have a Target down the street. I have a Fry's down the street. Whatever I need is all like right there. The park is down the street.
Right.
The gym's down the street. So everything's kind of like in that close proximity from where I live, where I don't have to travel.
Right.
So yeah, no, I totally agree. And out here, even though this pandemic's going on, Phoenix, especially downtown, have been building like crazy.
That's wild.
Throwing up skyscrapers and stuff. And then Tempe is another hub where they're building like crazy, especially near ASU. They're building a whole block of stuff. Like, and near Tempe Town Lake, they're building all this stuff. So it's like, I definitely agree with the whole smart city stuff because they're building like crazy all around here.
I think that's the part that's wild is like, because if they, the whole smart city idea is to make everything basically as simplistic as possible. So what you're not, quote, they tried the angle of, they still do it all the time with like, the earth, blah, 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 carbon emissions, cow farts, that kind of thing. And it didn't work out in the same direction. They had too much pushback. Well, now you have people, now with this situation, I do believe we're going to see more of that push in that direction because of this situation, saying, well, public transit and things like that, being more, I guess, accommodating in that context, but also kind of like detaching us from being independent is, I guess, the thing that I've noticed more and more is like this dependency on digital currencies. Digital to me in general is credit cards, not Bitcoin. Bitcoin's one digital currency, but I'm talking like a credit card is nothing but digital currency. You're not actually touching that money, and it's taking that out of your hand and saying, well, here's my card instead. And so, we're already well beyond, like the point of no return on that. I think that, this pushing of like not taking cash and they're gonna be like, well, wasn't it easier not to have to worry about change and all that other shit? And eventually money will be completely gone. I believe that. I think cash will be gone. Yeah. And we'll end up with
purposely crash the dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, what's a perfect way to do that? Well, stimulus. I mean, I'm like, they're pushing it in such a way we're in trillions in debt now.
Yeah, and then they're talking about the next stimulus may be on a debit card if you don't have your direct deposit set up. For the next one, they're talking about sending it out in a debit card form.
That's what I heard too. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so they're really trying to eliminate
cash.
Or, get cash out the way.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. Because, I mean, they did that
and
with Snap a long time ago.
Yeah. And this was something, like, me and you both have known for a while, but they were trying to push. And now it seems like to really be moving forward. Because especially if they're going to keep on saying, oh, there's a coin shortage. And
I thought that was pretty smooth. I was like, coin shortage?
What?
Coin
shortage,
After all this time, Rich, there's a coin shortage. Bullshit. I've never heard of such bullshit in my life.
So it wouldn't surprise me at all. They come out and say, we're deciding to move in a different direction when it comes to currency. We're going to go ahead just so it's safer for everybody.
Right.
And blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, honestly, it's just an easier way for them to track everybody.
Yes, it is.
And it could get to a point where there's like, you did something or whatever, they can freeze your account.
Yeah. There was
you can't get nothing.
Yeah, there's been interesting stuff about that, like when Squirrel bought his first gun, which was like last month. They put a freeze on his account for a very short window, and then it was released. And he was like, what the fuck? Like, because he called them and confirmed it was him, thinking they had frozen it. And they didn't really say that it was. It wasn't frozen. It was just they had some weird short-term hold on it just because he bought a firearm. And I was like, what the fuck? And it was weird. I was like, they're watching everything you do. Everything. I mean, he bought ammo online. I told him, I said, you know, because you can do that here in Texas. And he bought ammo because they couldn't get it anywhere here, the kind he needed. And they, you know, I told him, I said, don't be surprised if ATF comes knocking on the door saying, hey, Sonny, you know, like, we saw your purchase. You know, like, that's how wild it is. I'm like, what the hell? You know? I'm like, and he wasn't like he bought a ton of ammo. He just bought, because he's going to be training to get his concealed. And so he had to have the ammunition to go to the, you know, to the shooting range. But it's just wild, like the way that things are being watched. And I think especially with all this going on, we're coming up to an election, it's going to get even weirder. It really is. I don't know how.
Well, you seen, you know, like what happened after 9/11, how things were different.
Yeah.
You know, till this day, this is 2020, you still can't go into an airport like you used to.
No.
You used to be able to go all the way to the gate to send off family or whatever. Like when me and my brother flew by ourselves to North Carolina back in like '92 for a family reunion, my mom was able to go with us all the way to the gate and everything until we boarded. You know, you can't do that now.
No.
You can you could go with someone to check in their bags. You could go up, and then once you get to the security checkpoint, beyond that is the gates. You can't go beyond that. That's it.
Yeah.
So you can say your goodbyes there, and then
watch him
they go on from there.
Yep.
Yeah. You can't, you know. And then as far as surveillance and everything that was part of the Patriot Act, how that's, you know, taken over, where, you know, they basically made it where they can monitor basically everything you do now. You know, phone conversations, emails, whatever.
Yeah.
There's not many places you can go without there being a camera. You know.
Yep.
Within a block, you know, there's a camera. So a lot of stuff that people either didn't pay attention to or didn't realize was going on after 9/11, that got all passed.
Yep.
In Congress and everything for it to happen. So you can only imagine what's going to go down after this is all cleared up or whatever the case is. So, you know, that's what you always gotta, when it comes to these crises, that's what you gotta pay attention to.
Yeah. Well, like you were saying earlier.
They're using this,
the legislation.
Yeah.
What are they going to be pushing through under the premise of safety and protection, right? And you know, the thing is they like 9/11 did happen despite popular beliefs. Crazy people. You know, believe what you want, and that's fine. You know, but you know, 9/11 did occur. There were lives lost. I mean, numbers, you know, over the years have changed about the amount of people that were killed, but just regardless, it was a huge amount of Americans that were killed that day. A lot of lives were pretty much, you know, flipped upside down, if not destroyed. And the country never really fully recovered from that. And, you know, the truth is that when you have a pandemic like this, there's so much political crap that's going on. It's just reminiscent of history, you know, like from the Spanish flu, and obviously nobody alive now really, you know, very few people, if anybody, was, you know, you know, were alive at the, you know, they're still alive from that time when it actually happened. But it has lasting effects on society, and you had anti-maskers then that were started, you know, they were started by some groups, and then the anti-mask league showed up, and that was held up by suffragists, you know, and other people jumped onto the bandwagon of that. And there's nothing new under the sun. It just has different names. So the question is like, well, what's going to come out of this? Because of so much of the political turmoil that we've already had, a lot of the civil unrest that we're already experiencing and still going on. What else is going to come out of this because people are taking advantage of a crisis? And I think opportunists are going to take any advantage they can. Human nature is like that. So, they'll shit on the people who are grieving because it doesn't affect their bread and butter because they're narcissists. They're selfish. Or perhaps they have their head up their ass. I think all three. But, it's just the selfish mentality of it isn't affecting me, therefore it doesn't exist. It's like you don't want this to affect you. That's the point. And there may be some places it isn't affecting, but there's a lot of places where it is. And it doesn't, and then sometimes we don't have a high population down here in retrospect to a major city, like let's say San Antonio or Corpus Christi. But we have a significant population that's being affected because we do have, aside from a Hispanic community, we have a high population of elderly here too. It's interesting. So you get those two extremes. And the other thing, the reason to make a point, aside from this being a semi-retirement area in South Texas, is that a lot of people remained here, Trump, you idiot, because he told them that the heat would kill it. Okay? So, or the heat would deter, the virus, right? This bullshit about the heat. And remember all that bullshit. And where were the states that this the outbreak was the worst? Florida, Arizona, and Texas. Are you serious? And reopening the state, I understand the economic need to do that. I'm not against that at all. I do think, however, underestimating the requirements and the suggestions by the CDC were not sufficient. And I think that had a lot to do with it. Plus, this is an airborne pathogen. It will go. There's plenty of evidence of this. The fact that this has even been an argument blows my mind. But they've known that it's been airborne. So I think the reason this is just a hypothesis, as somebody who's just educated, okay? I'm educated, college-educated individual. My hypothesis is the reason why so many people have gotten it in places that were hotter, like Arizona, Florida, and Texas, South Texas especially, but generally Texas, is because people were going to air conditioning units more often. So like you're in a public place, you're hotter than hell, you go looking for an AC, you look for the air subconsciously to cool down. And if it's airborne and it's in the air and it gets into the air ducts and it's going to incubate throughout the day, it's going to spread that way. And I think that that's probably a small piece. I believe that has a lot to do with it because they found as an example, when they were on the cruise liner, the Princess cruise liner, it was in the air ducts. And they found traces of the virus all throughout the air ducts. And I'm like, that's why everybody got it. Aside from the fact they weren't properly separating and cleaning the areas because they didn't know how to handle it. In the truth be told, I'm not defending them, they're idiots anyway. But they kept all these people on that cruise liner, and the first thing I thought was get them the hell off of there, and separate people and handle it like South Korea did, where they were putting them in, air-conditioned hotel, separated rooms, and they had their own AC units. They were all separated out, and that helped deter some of the more severe cases too from escalating or getting worse, or if somebody was healthy, keeping them healthy. But in the end, though, there's a lot of stuff of unknown. So as we're getting into the fall, with this is airborne, and they don't like saying that. They'll say, "Oh, it's not really this, and it's not bullshit," and they know that's bullshit. So that's why in the Philippines, as an example, recently, they've made it a requirement for people to wear the face guards, the face shields, that go over their eyes. They're plastic and clear; you can see through them. They wear the mask underneath, And I think that's why they've done that there in the Philippines. Philippines was getting hit tremendously too, but they also have the similar issues of going to doctors, just as a lot of other communities do, the distrust of going to the doctor right away, trying to ride out through the symptoms until it gets bad enough, right? So, and also the health of the communities in general, like in China too, it's the same thing, looking at the health of the culture. But in the end, though, all these individuals paid a price for lack of information, not having the preparedness. And I think that's why the states here in our country were not prepared properly, because they were not told. Florida's still a travesty. Do you know that, I didn't know this, Squirrel was reading me an article earlier talking about Florida, how screwed they were recently, is that they have still yet to pay out unemployment to their citizens. Dude!
No. Wow. Wow.
I was like, what?
No, I didn't know that.
And he was like, he was reading me this article. I was like, holy shit. And I had no idea that's how bad it was in Florida. I'm like, no wonder people are like leaving the state, or they can't get another job. Where are they going to work in some cases? And the thing with Florida, just like Hawaii, their tourism is what keeps them going, Yeah. Because we had the spring break. It started during spring break. Excuse me, prior to spring break. So the tourism is like their fucking bread and butter. So without that, you have a lot of communities that are suffering from that. But they don't have unemployment? Are you serious? Oh my God. You gotta be kidding me, dude. It's incredible.
So it wouldn't surprise me at all if crime starts to go up because of that. When people are desperate, people do desperate things.
Right.
So if they got a family and they can't get unemployment, they can't do nothing, they gotta feed kids, they can't get a job, it drives a person to do something they normally wouldn't do. So it wouldn't surprise me if crime goes up because of that.
Yeah, and that's the part where I'm like, no wonder like there's so much tension, and in the state of Florida, in general anyway, it's always got a state of tension in that state. But I'm looking up the article really quick. Yeah, there's a lot of craziness going on with Florida not paying out their, let's see here. Let me see. I know they were having issues with the federal thing. Let's see here. Okay. This is from NPR. The Florida governor's trying to CYA himself. Governors says that Florida's unemployment system was designed to create pointless roadblocks. And this is Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida. He's a real gem. Amid staggering job losses in March and April, Florida's unemployment system was the slowest in the country to process any claims. Residents described nightmarish experiences as they tried to get benefits. By April 20th, just about 6% of Floridians who had applied for unemployment had received even a check. Governor Sanchez said the result was by design. Having studied how the employment system was internally constructed, I think the goal was to whoever designed it was let's put as many pointless roadblocks along the way so people just say, oh, the hell with it, I'm not going to do it. That's true. So Florida's online system known as Connect debuted in October 2013 during the administration of DeSantis' fellow Republican Rick Scott, now a U.S. Senator. DeSantis says he wasn't sure if Scott's intention was to discourage people from applying for benefits, but the system was certainly designed to produce this outcome. The system cost $77.9 million to build and had problems from the beginning, crashing frequently and proving difficult to log into. Let's see here. It says the state's Senate Democratic Caucus said on Wednesday that about 1.45 million Floridians continue to be waiting for payments. That's insane. So basically, a lot of people have not been paid out for any benefits whatsoever. So, an example, they talked to Jennifer Riley from Ormond Beach, Florida, said it took 12 weeks after she was laid off in February to receive an unemployment check. And the other issue is that the distribution of the federal money is another story. Like, they're not properly distributing the money to their citizens. That's how out of control that is. So even if you're getting a check, you're probably not going to be getting a bigger check. So it's like, it's out of control. So anyway, there's a lot of weirdness going on, but it's we'll have to look more into it. It's just like there's so much stuff beyond what's going to be happening next. I feel like this week and next week they're going to see some changes go on because there's so much tension, especially about the not bailout, might as well be the stimulus check crap and the whole stimulus in general. They're going to have to act upon it soon because people saw that deadline come and go with no results. So
exactly,
that's
they better do something. They better fix something.
They got to figure out what they're going to be doing to help the states. I mean, we have elections coming up. There needs to be funding put into motion for that if people want to be voting in person. You know, if other people want to vote by mail, whatever. But anyway, we'll definitely cover that stuff and discuss more stuff. There's just so many little things that have been going on and catching up on things and just being like, oh yeah, that broke or that story came out and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
but anyway,
definitely.
Tell people, Rich, where they can find you on YouTube and Twitter.
Yeah, UND Gamer Die, both same handle for both. I was actually doing Family Fortnite, and what happened was, for whatever reason, my game, not the girls' game, but my Fortnite froze up. So I had to delete the whole stream. I'm like, I
saw the deleted video.
Yeah, so we'll probably try it again tomorrow. And I was trying to get Ariana because Ariana was here before she went back home with her mom. And so we'll probably try it again tomorrow. If we don't do that, I'll probably do Call of Duty again. But yeah, I don't know what happened. We were doing fine, and then all of a sudden I'm like, come on. So I'll probably do another stream tomorrow. Do a Fortnite stream.
That'll be cool. Yeah, hopefully I'll have this up. What's tomorrow? Tuesday. By Wednesday I'll have it up. The other one we did was so long. I think that's why it's having an issue with me.
No, that was a marathon one right there.
Yeah, we did a previous, like a Forge Circle. We were talking about other stuff, and we went a long time because we were just catching up and hadn't talked in a while, and
yeah.
And I think that's what happened. We
just by the time we got done, like Nina had to get up like an hour later for work. That's how.
Yep.
I think the sun was about to come up out here.
Yeah, Noel was crazy. I went out there and he was like, Squirrel was like, oh, what? You guys just got off? I'm like, yeah, man. He's like, I heard you talking earlier, but holy damn. Like, he didn't realize how late it was, right? And,
yeah.
Because he'll watch his horror crap and stuff when I'm doing this. So I'm like, yeah, you do you. But, yeah, we'll be doing this. Hopefully we'll try to make this weekly. And I can get them posted up.
Yeah.
And eventually we'll go live with these. That'd be great. But,
yeah,
I know that I spoke to Perp, and I haven't talked to Brian. There's a lot of people I'd like to have come pop on, even if it's just one person.
Oh, yeah,
and
definitely.
Bring people on. It's just everyone's got other stuff going on right now, so it's kind of like trying to find the right time. And it's like, okay, people work, have lives, who knew? But,
yeah, times are crazy right now.
It is.
Definitely.
And everyone's got new schedules. But, we do appreciate everybody hanging out with us, even though we're kind of like, we talked quite a bit about different stuff that are going on, but there's just so much, it's like piecing it all together, right? In future episodes, there'll be a lot more structure with topic as well, but this one was just like, there's so much stuff going on. There's a lot of conspiratorial stuff, which is stuff that Rich and I are kind of watching, not necessarily making comments on yet, because we want to see exactly what direction they're pushing it in. And also the motive, that's a big one. So when we get closer to that, we'll be able to be like, oh, well, this makes sense now, this is what this individual was saying, as opposed to, well, this is some rumor bullshit, and this individual has their own hand up, into somebody else's pocket, So it's always good to know more about the sources of information as opposed to just saying, oh, okay, well, this is a rumor and taking it at full face value, which is not going to work. But anyway.
Exactly.
Well, thank everybody, though, for hanging out with us, and hopefully we'll have more episodes up of this, and I will probably eventually be going back to sitting down and talking to people, having one-on-ones and stuff like that. I just haven't had time. So it's trying to balance out scheduling and figuring out what works. And I'll hopefully have my actual room set up, my actual den, because we just moved. So I don't have any of that stuff set up yet. So you're seeing an interesting white wall right now because I'm not even in the right room that I'd like to be in.
Hey, I'm down here downstairs, and it's so plain. I would, do the bookshelf with all my cool stuff on it,
Right.
but there'd be no room for me to be able to do that the way the angle is.
Right.
It's all off.
Yeah, mine is. Yeah, everything's disorganized. I don't have my shelves up. I don't have anything like. I have some stuff on shelves, but it's not it's not the area that I would have set up for this, for example.
Mm-hmm.
With all my other books, that's being set up in the den, which requires buying bookshelves, and we haven't even had a chance to do that. We've been doing other stuff. But anyway, but hopefully, yeah, we'll get our setups going and keep on going forward and see where it goes and stuff. But I do appreciate everybody hanging out with us.
Definitely.
My hiatus was very high, and so was Rich is doing his stream, so you can check out his channel, and I'll be back to doing my thing again. And this is just something Rich and I have always done, just as a podcast. And so bringing it to YouTube is a whole new world, so there's going to be a lot of bugs. So I apologize. Bugs everywhere. But we got Raid. So, anyway, thanks everyone. I hope everyone has a great night, evening, wherever you are. See you later.
Exactly.
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
I want you to get mad.
Isn't that powerful? $50 or more.